hostile! Hello, Internet! I'm Jeff the Professional Shitbag, and welcome once again to the weekly Weebcast, which is actually maybe going to be weekly for at least a little while. We have moved to a new channel, the Basement Escape channel, so if you're listening to this on SoundCloud, be sure to subscribe to that to make sure that you see what's on here, but I don't need to tell you that if you're watching this on YouTube, because obviously you're watching this on that channel and not Mother's Basement. I am joined today by two good friends of mine, Superbunnyhop.
Hi.
And the Pedantic Romantic.
Hey there.
And we are going to be talking about an anime movie that everybody loves, Your Name. People love this movie so much, in fact, that Superbunnyhop, who is a video gamer who doesn't even care about any of these Chinese cartoons, expressly messaged me on Discord saying he wanted to talk about Your Name because it hit him that hard.
I saw it 3 times. It's a lot.
What's the last movie that you saw that much?
Hang on, I might come up with one. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm legitimately drawing a blank. Like, when I was a kid, I would watch the old Star Wars movies over and over and over again, and when I was in college, I watched a lot of David Lynch, but I don't know, maybe I saw the Twin Peaks movie 3 times? Fire Walk with Me? I don't think anything else in quite a good long while has made me want to rewatch it immediately after the ending of not No Man's Name, Your Name.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Did with me. But then I saw it again just now, and it like still got me during a couple key segments. The first time I bawled my eyes out during 2 key segments. The second time I swelled up and got a little moist during one of those key segments, and then started leaking during the second one. This time I got the goosebumps and the gasps. I didn't bawl my eyes out, I didn't swell up and get moist, but I did get the goosebumps and the gasps during the 2 key scenes that get me every single time I see this movie.
Okay, we will dive in. We'll dive into what those scenes are in a second. But you love this movie.
I fucking love it. Oh my god, it's so fucking good.
And
I think. I don't know. This is like really an amazing experience to me because I play so many games that I think I've become like kind of jaded on a lot of the quality of good video game storytelling, and so I don't see a lot of movies, and I sure as hell don't see a lot of anime. So when I like dive into it with something this strong after months, if not years, of destitution and starvation, it's really satisfying. Like
yeah.
One of the most powerful media experiences I've had in years. Like I said, I cried twice the first time.
I mean, I watch a lot of sad anime. My favorite genre is sad things about dead little girls who write letters to you.
Oh my god, wait, this is... See, I didn't know this was a genre, and if I had, like, gotten that into it, the impact, it would be softened. I didn't know this was as common a story as you're making
Everything's
it
a genre. It's anime.
But there's not that many films, or there's not that many shows, I guess, because it's more shows in this genre. But like at this point, there are enough that you could call it a genre.
See, I'm such an anime amateur that when I was getting to the part in the middle where it's revealed that she's a sad dead girl writing letters from the past, I was like, oh, this reminds me of Silent Hill 2.
I mean, yeah, that's that is an apt comparison, and I mean, I'm sure that a lot of these are actually inspired, at least in part, by Silent Hill 2, because that was, you know, a landmark bit of storytelling in Japan. But yeah, I mean, there's I guess this is gonna be like big spoilers for lots of things, but there's Clanad. Clanad has dead little girls. There's Anohana, which is about a ghost girl who disappears at the end and leaves a bunch of sad letters to her friends right as she's disappearing. And that that is the one that has hit me the hardest out of
Jesus
almost any
Christ.
anime
I Googled
I've
image
watched.
searched for Clan Ad, and oh my god, her eyes are so big.
Yeah,
Good lord.
so that's the signature art style of Key. Everybody looks like maybe there was a little bit of unsavory chemicals in the drinking water of their parents' hometown.
Yeah. Whoa. They're really far apart from each other too.
and a little bit too far down their faces, right?
Oh,
like
dear.
it's like their faces are melting a little.
And Clanad's probably the best one. There's worse implementations of that style.
If you Google Air, you are gonna see some girls with that hard encephalopathy moe.
How do you spell this?
Air, just AIR anime.
Oh, anime. That's the thing I needed to add. There we go.
Yeah, because otherwise you're gonna get a Wikipedia page about a chemical compound that we all breathe. But yeah, so I have watched a lot of things with similar theming. And I guess that makes me a little desensitized to this, because I do
the law of diminishing returns.
I do cry at the end of all of these. Like Your Lie and April hit me really hard. Anohana hit me the hardest of any media experience I've had, and I mean that partially owes to I saw it before other things. But Anohana is really good, and if you liked Your Name, I would recommend checking it out. But Your Name did still make me cry at the end, especially like. So what are the two scenes that made you cry, George?
When two characters are climbing the mountain.
Yes, that's
both of those scenes are what do it to me. The scene where she's being piloted by he, goes up the mountain with Grandma, and Grandma's telling the story about Musubi, and how all the threads of time intersect with one another, and how people are all connected to each other, while the camera is panning across like some of the most beautiful frames of nature that I've seen. It just seems like such a deeply meaningful pastoral moment that it's like, to me right now is like one of the most beautiful sequences I've ever seen in a film. And the second time comes when I was bawling my eyes out from that, because I love occasionally taking a trip out into nature and just chilling out with scenery, and that really resonated with me.
The movie really captures the sort of profundity of experiencing that beauty. And
it matches with some underlying themes going on as well, that surprisingly check out in real life, which I'll get to soon. But until then, the second scene that gets me is when he climbs the mountain, and one of the reasons why that strikes me is because the symmetry of the editing in the movie, I think, is amazing. How it begins and ends with very similar shots, and has like two stories that fold into and out of each other to a similar pacing. And that moment of them both climbing the mountain, like, it kind of forms like a central perimeter around a pivot point, where Mizuha looks up at the meteor crashing down, and then it like snaps away to begin like a second plot where there's the turning point, and the plot turns from wacky shenanigans of switching out each other's body to we gotta get the kids together to save the town. But both of those halves of the movie like begin and end with similar cinematography, and so you have a scene in which the girl is climbing the mountain on a beautiful sunny day, and then the boy is climbing a mountain on a miserable rainy night, where the stakes have changed, the mood has changed to something much more dark and sinister, and the visuals of everything represent that. And then he trips out drinking the spit sake, and that's when I start crying. Again.
Oh man, that is one of the most beautiful animated sequences I've ever seen in my life.
Every time I've seen that, I notice more things that I didn't before. Like that. Oh my god. Oh, I was having goosebumps when I saw it just now. I'm having goosebumps thinking about it right now. But there's threads in that scene. Like he gets teleported into like the multiverse and starts following a thread that is the comet's smoke trail through the atmosphere that becomes the umbilical cord of Mizuha being born, that then becomes the thread she throws to him in the subway station. And like 10 minutes earlier, when she's climbing the mountain piloted by him, Grandma is talking about how the threads of everyone's timeline intersect with each other. 10 minutes later, like, he's literally flying through a trippy multiverse following these actual threads and like conveying that kind of symbolism in such a clear, easy to follow way visually is fucking amazing.
Yeah. It's a really
Got me choking up over here. It's beautiful.
Yeah, this film makes really good use of just the beauty of everything that it presents to you to increase its emotional impact. I touched on this in my What's in an OP talking about it, but like Makoto Shinkai, the director of this movie, he gets accused of style over substance a lot. But in this movie, the stylistic flourishes are kind of the substance, because they give you the context of the sort of emotional awe that these characters are taking in at any given moment. And the sense of nostalgia, the sense of melancholy, all of that comes through in just these beautiful, beautiful frames of everything that he shows to you. And then
hyper real, like, traced over and then painted over and then animated photographs that look prettier than the real thing.
And then, like, when you get to the end, like the third act of the film, once they have saved the town and they're trying to find each other, and all of Tokyo is just like bathed in rain and shadows and that brightness, that like HDR hyper real visual goes away, it like leaves you with the same sense of longing that the characters are feeling, and it's really powerful.
And I also like the theme of how incidental something incredibly important to someone else can be, which follows throughout the movie. It's the heartwarming process of seeing how complicated and complete a random stranger's life out there in the pile of people actually is. And at the end of the movie, when at the very beginning of the movie we see a comet crash down, at the very end of the movie we see the same meteor shower like fizzle out, and it's like just a beautiful pretty thing to look at for a couple minutes for the people in Tokyo who are like, aren't we fortunate to be witnessing this event in this day and age? Meanwhile, a couple hour drives away, like, this is literally a disastrous, horrifying situation that completely changes everyone's lives for the worse.
Until he goes back in time and saves everybody.
Well, they still have their houses blown up.
Yeah, but I mean,
which does give her a good excuse to move to Tokyo, I guess.
Oh man, the thing that gets me, or that got me when I watched the movie, like the beauty of those scenes that you're talking about, those filled me with like a sense of awe. They definitely gave me the goosebumps, but I wasn't crying necessarily. What really got me was just that ending, you know, when they finally do find each other, after all of that time, and that like sense of relief washes over you when they meet eyes, and they don't even remember all of this beautiful stuff that you as an audience have just experienced, but they say to each other like, hey, do I know you? And they're like, yeah, hey, I think so. And it's such a great moment on its own, and it's just the perfect way to cap off that story and give you that happy ending that Makoto Shinkai does not like fucking giving anybody in anything. George, you're obviously not like familiar with all of his body of work.
But
this
is the first one I've seen, so
his other most recent project is a 4-episode long mini series that like each episode's like 7 minutes long, for TV Tokyo, I think, or something like that. about a little girl's cat who grows old and dies.
That's just mean.
Yeah, it's.
Well, yeah, no, when I first saw it, I called up the girl and was like, "Hey, do you want to see another one of this director's movie?" And she was like, "No, give me like a month, dude." So we won't go straight to the cat one. I'll save that one for later.
I mean, they're all. One of his movies is 5 centimeters per second is about two people who were in love once growing farther and farther apart as they grow older. And his other one, Garden of Words, is just... they're all beautiful, but they're all extremely depressing. And this is the first movie he's done that leads on like a unambiguously happy note. So... that should... yeah. Makoto Shinkai is a dick. We haven't heard from Pedantic Romantic yet. Lachlan, what did you think of the movie?
Yeah, well, on the subject of some of what you were just touching on, I think one of the most interesting aspects of Your Name is how it grounds the motifs of the film more so than a lot of his past work. So in something like 5 centimeters per second, you had the spaceship launch, and its visual representation was sort of similar to the meteor shower even. But it didn't mean much beyond this sort of abstract sort of humanity and distance and growing further, these sort of more abstract ideas. Whereas the motifs in this film are really tied into all of the character drama in a really direct way, the politics, or this meteor having a direct, tangible impact. And so there's just a greater sense of tightness or cohesion to everything going on.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how important all of this little side characters' side stories turn out being. Like, she's the mayor's daughter. That's awkward when she walks to school one morning, but then turns out to be like a pivotal plot point to convincing the town to evacuate in time. But then turns out to be like a not so pivotal but still super tear-jerky plot point when we see that he wasn't always a cold, passionless politician until his wife died, and that changed his goals in life to something that was no longer able to account for his family life.
Which is such a perfect representation of how those like threads of fate weave through every single person's lives and change
really
them. And
concise. Like the themes stay relevant in so many little scenes that otherwise would seem incidental.
And oh man, on the flip side of this, the I guess you'd call it the main theme of the story, which is finding a connection with somebody who isn't anywhere near you and may even be displaced in time from you, and the struggle to like find that super important thing that is so far at the edges of your life that you're barely even aware that you need it.
He's always been searching for something, and that's like something that I think we all can relate to, is just the occasional moment every few months where you have this gut feeling that there's something not there that should be there.
And I like... that's kind of what the drive to find love is, right? That feeling that there's got to be someone out there somewhere for you, but it also plays on that fear that maybe that person is so far away that you're never actually going to meet them.
So the feeling that I got when coming away from it the first time was an overwhelming fear and anxiety about how complicated and large and vast the world actually is.
Yeah. That's not a wrong reaction to this movie. But I think the the flip side of that, and the reassuring thing about this movie, is the idea that you can find connections with people literally anywhere. Wherever you are, there is somebody you can connect with.
You think so?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's you see that in Mitsuha's friendship with Tessie, and I forget the girl's name. I forget the other girl in her class's name. But like you see that friendship, despite how catty and bitchy the people around them can be. You see that in Taki's friendship with his classmates and his co-workers. And like wherever any of the characters in this movie go, just by passing through somebody else's life, they end up enriching it a little bit. Like that random guy who owns the ramen shop that they stop into.
Whoa. Oh my god, yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah, so it's scary, but it's also like, I don't know, maybe you're not gonna meet this person who's super important to you. Like the grandmother, she says that she vaguely remembers having done the same body swapping thing that her granddaughter has done, right? Mm-hmm. But she never found the guy who she swapped bodies with, and she's happy. You know, she like has a very happy, fulfilling life.
Seems to just regard it as a few really interesting dreams she had for a little while, rather than like, it's sometimes hard to tell how seriously Grandma takes this situation, or up until the midpoint, how seriously the kids themselves are taking this situation. Because at first, like, they genuinely believe it's just dreams, and then Grandma at the table way later, past the midpoint, says, "Oh yeah, you're having those dreams too. Those were fun. Cherish them." But then a few minutes later, you hear that she's actually planning to evacuate the town, and is evidently one of the only people who believes her at first.
Yeah. I mean, she's also got that, like, spiritual aspect to her, so she's more inclined, even if she doesn't remember it, I think she's the type of character who'd be more inclined to believe that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But, oh man, and then you consider the implications of, like, how did Mitsuha's mom meet her dad? Was that a body swapping story that they both forgot about?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, so the other thing that actually kind of stuck out to me on the third viewing, there are plot holes, which I've read a lot of people are much less forgiving towards the movie than I am. But one of the things that I think is kind of wonky is that even though you do hear that the grandmother and the mother have had body swapping experiences, it evidently does not line up with the comet, because the comet comes once every 1,200 years. But that stuff would have happened, like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. But the timing of Mitsuha and Taki's body swapping lines perfectly up with the comet passing over Earth in Mitsuha's timeline.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what celestial forces at play were supposed to be the MacGuffin magic explanation behind the previous generations having body swapping experiences.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like, maybe it was some other kind of disaster related to the town, or maybe just that family's connection to that god. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean,
I think I got the feeling that it was just the body swaps happened somewhat regularly in the family, independent of any particular natural disaster, and this just lined up here.
Yeah, and allowed them to save the town. And it's, like, implied by that cave painting that maybe that body swapping thing was something that their ancestors intentionally created to save the town from the meteor many, many, many years later. But
yeah, which I think is one of the most fun things I noticed on the second view was was just, there's like 3 crater impacts around the place, and one of them has an ancient cave painting. So so the people of the old world, they knew.
Yeah, and
we failed to heed their call.
Or maybe they succeeded, and they had to leave the town, but the tribe lived on. They got the people out in time in the past.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, and I don't know if it all holds up 100%. Like people have, like you said, people have pointed out plot holes. But I don't think that plot holes are super duper important to...
Yeah, I was still having the time of my life.
Like, in a story like this, the only thing that I think really matters as far as the plot's consistency goes is having consistent and believable motivations for your characters. As long as your characters are acting like human beings, it's going to connect emotionally. I mean, that's why I still think Erased is a really, really great anime, even though the so-called mystery kind of fizzles out, and the ending is...
Finale leaves a lot to be desired.
The ending is definitely rushed. But intellectually, that story is like, okay, I wish that they had expanded on this more like they did in the manga. And, okay, the motivation for this killer is like, he's just a killer, whatever. And it's kind of obvious who he is. But the emotional connection that you feel for those characters and the emotional beats of that story, how it feels exciting, how it feels warm and heartwarming, how it can feel cold and scary at times, those are what draw you through that show, and they're executed really, really well with really strong directorial flourishes that hit you hard. And that's, I would say that's this movie's biggest strength, is its ability to just suck you into an emotion and
it's
overwhelm
very
you.
effective at that, I feel.
One amusing thing I did notice, because one of the more prominent plot hole complaints is the fact that they didn't notice the discrepancy in the years when they were swapping back and forth.
Yep, that's the
so
one
they
I
both have
too.
this same calendar app in their phone. And I paused it and just sort of looked around. There's no date in their calendar app. The calendar app's on their phone. Or there's no year. The date just has the month and the day, so the year is totally excluded. I'm not sure if that's the norm in Japan or if they were aware of that and sort of just made this fantasy calendar app without the year as a part of it.
It's gotta be like a necessary plot hole, I think, because they're supposed to be doing homework and going to jobs and stuff. Like, they're dating papers and depositing paychecks that are gonna have that year on it. The way I make it make sense in my head canon is that every time they wake up out of it, they're so woozy that the 3-year difference doesn't seem that big of a deal when they're trying to piece back together everything that happened. But they're still cognizant enough when they're in each other's bodies and they're leaving each other's notes that it is strange that they never leave a note about it to one another.
Yeah.
I mean, I think on a certain level they're supposed to be like operating on dream logic. Because when you're dreaming, you never really look at the clock. You never really notice the time, and it changes every time you look at it.
You only remember like a third of what happens when you wake up, and then that fizzles away over the next hour, which is terrifying after seeing the movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's what am I losing here? But I mean, the biggest, I guess, gaping hole there is how does Taki not notice that suddenly there's no comet in the sky? Because that thing was visible in the sky for days. And how does Mitsuha suddenly, like how do they not notice that? But it's one of those things that are at the periphery and you don't really think about while they're happening.
Yeah, I mean, having boobs seems to be taking up more space.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
than
yeah,
anything
man.
else.
What a great gag that is. And
honestly,
the way that
I talk to people who don't like
as much as that gag didn't bother me, as I'm sure some may have been irked by it. The gag where it's Mitsuha in his body and she puts her hands down there, just because that one hasn't been done nearly as much. That was hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is.
But
the
also
third,
her reaction is adorable. Though.
Yeah.
the third viewing. I noticed something. I don't know if I'm reading too far into it, but during a musical montage, in which they're switching bodies and getting ready to call each other idiots. There's a few scenes of her waking up, touching her new dick, getting flushed about it, going to the toilet, and sighing and breathing heavily on her way out.
Probably.
And yeah, that's something I didn't notice until the third viewing, and I'm like, whoa. So he's like jerking off with her boobs, and she might be jerking off with his dick.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, wouldn't you?
Exactly.
I would, you know, and the another great little detail is that she starts wearing a bra to bed.
Huh.
Because
because she does it in the
he's
beginning.
fondling her boobs so much.
Well, she also now has boobs.
Yeah,
which is something that I think might be more of a deal in the dub than the translation, than the translated subs. Because I read a lot of English reviews when I was finished watching it for verification. I was like, yeah, they like it too. That means I'm not crazy. I was doing that
Validate
thing
me.
that pathetic consumers of media do. And they mentioned in a lot of these English language reviews about how one of the big recurring themes is that Mizuha is supposed to be going through puberty and her body is changing anyway, let alone switching into another one, which is something I didn't really get out of it. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but after 3 viewings, I still didn't see exactly the moment they're talking about where she like is surprised to wake up to find out that she has breasts. It seems like her having breasts is the first thing that happens, and
I don't know. I only watched I've watched this movie twice, or 1.5 times, I guess, plus going through it to edit my video. And the second time I did watch it dubbed, and I will say that the dub did place a little bit more emphasis on her being sort of a hormonal teenager.
Okay.
I
wonder how that decision was made.
I don't know.
I've seen the sub 3 times, and they really don't dwell on it.
I think that the dub is actually really not awful, but it makes a lot of mistakes that make the film worse. Small ones, like how they choose to portray certain characters, like the grandmother has like a Wisconsin accent for some reason, and I was kind of willing to go along with that for a while, but then it I don't know. The you lose a lot by watching this dub, just simply because the 2 main actors are so good at affecting each other's mannerisms and personalities, and making it seem like this is Mitsuha and Taki's body, this is Taki and her body, and like the swapping back and forth. You can always tell who's in whose body, not just from the animation of how they act, but just the cadence of their voice. But they don't sound like they're really, really trying super hard to sound like a girl in a boy's body.
In the Japanese version, you hear Taki get super girly or super manly, depending on who's inside of him. And see, it seems really obvious for his voice actor, not so much for hers for the Japanese one.
Well, I mean, in when he's in her body, he's more like Jotaro Kujo or something like that, where he's like, "Ura! I'm not gonna let you fuck with me." Like, he's more brash, and it's sort of a subtle thing if you're not super familiar with how Japanese speaking goes, but he is a lot less polite and demure.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of that with body language, but maybe like the words that the subtitles say, not so much with her tone of voice, but I do notice it with him.
Yeah,
like when he wakes up and says "sumimasen" when opening the door to breakfast, the father is immediately like, "Wait, what? What?" like he's way more apologetic when he is her.
Yeah,
and you can tell from the tone of voice.
I also do think that the voice actor of Taki does a little bit of a better job than the voice actress of Mizuha, although they're still both really, really strong actors. But in the dub, it just doesn't work.
I saw the dub trailer. I haven't seen the film dubbed, but it had the not uncommon issue of the lead female there sounding like she was a woman, in her mid-30s, like trying to do a high schooler. It felt particularly grating in that instance.
Yeah, she sounds like another, I don't know how long you've been watching anime, Lachlan, and obviously you don't have a frame of reference for this, George, but back in the early 2000s, we had the Wendy Lee plague, where every single female character was either played by Wendy Lee or played by somebody who sounds exactly like Wendy Lee. And it's she just sort of sounds like anime girl. And the dub Taki, he's almost at the point of like Monty Python man putting on a girl's voice. Like, not quite there, but
that sounds awful.
It is pretty awful, but the most egregious thing is, that first musical montage where she's seeing Tokyo for the first time, which in the Japanese version of the movie is so fucking powerful. Like, that first experience of Tokyo in that movie that captures the beauty of that city felt like my first time actually going to Tokyo.
Yeah, remember when he gets lost in Shinjuku Station and uses Google Maps to figure it out?
That's
like, if you've been there, you've been there. Like, everyone who's visited Tokyo has done exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool. Sorry, I'm getting excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to get excited about going back to Japan, because Japan is the best.
I saw it. I went with I went to Japan with my friend Matt Visual. Go subscribe, youtube.com/satchbags. He was in the theater with me when we watched it, and when we got to that scene of him getting lost in Shinjuku Station and using Google Apps, like, we looked at each other and just started giggling because it was like a shared experience of being like, I recognize this thing from this movie and they got it exactly right.
But also, like, that first time that she steps out into the street in his body, and just like that overwhelming rush of people, but also the intimidating beauty of the buildings all around her, like it feels very Tokyo. And here's the thing, in the dub, because they also so the dub also has all of the songs in English language, and they were recorded
by...
by...
curious about. It's still the same singer, isn't it?
It's the same band, yeah, but it sounds awful. It sounds awful.
I totally forgot about that.
Because dubbing songs is always bad. Almost always bad. There are some examples of dubbed songs that are pretty good, like Oran High School Host Club has a dubbed theme song. And DN Angel's dubbed theme song is pretty good too. Yezu Otaku, who is a anime YouTuber from way, way back in the day, did a list of good dubbed opening theme songs. But anyway, these are bad. And the thing is, because they have to change that song, because they have to change the actors, they have to redo the whole mix. And in that mix, the roar of the crowd as she steps out into that street is quieter. And it totally changes the impact of that scene. It sucks.
Weird.
It's yeah, like, I don't want to say it's like a beginner mistake, because it's a super technical thing, but it's kind of like...
Sorry.
Yeah, don't change the audio balance of all of the different voice actors. That's bad, you know?
When I came back a few weeks later, a friend wanted me to see a hilariously bad anime dub for something called Garvy's Wing.
Yes.
Oh, Garzy's
Wing. Garzy.
Garzy's Wing is the all-time greatest anime of all time.
I didn't realize how much could go wrong when dubbing an anime until seeing that, where, like, you would see the animations loop over and over because the person's voice line was too long to match up with the animation on the screen. And
Oh,
how
that-
you
Some of
have,
those
like,
might have also just been the original animation.
The
Across these
original
swings
anime
and
is
that's
pretty
the
bad
intro.
on its own.
It just was like amazing to me that there would be scenes of like a character getting ready to run away, but then they'd trace their steps back again and finish their lines, and then go back to running away again.
Yeah,
They just like step in reverse for a few frames, finish what they're saying, and then the animation would play again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you'd have to change like the animation to time up with the new voice lines, and ambient sounds and music would have to change as well to not drown out the new voice lines.
Well, I mean, it's not as big of a problem for anime series because they just use lip flaps, and the way that anime TV shows are done is the animation is usually done before the voice actors come in. So the voice actors try to match the lip flaps with their emoting. I mean, it's not the case for every production ever, obviously.
Yeah.
But
the animation
but,
is sort of designed to be dubbed over.
Exactly. So with TV shows, it's actually really easy to, well, not really easy, but it's not as difficult as it could be to create a good English language dub of a Japanese show that looks natural. But with a movie, obviously the voice actors come in first, and then they are matching all of the lip movements to what they're saying, because a movie is going to have the budget for proper lip sync. So dubbing over that, it becomes super obvious whenever they're saying something that doesn't line up with what the voice actors are saying. And some of their choices of things, of like replacements for words are just awful. Like in that scene where they're talking about musubi, they change it to another translation that's just doesn't work, and then they go back to talking about musubi, and
Which is a real concept.
yeah, it's like a real religious concept that they explore in the movie, but it's just dubbed so poorly in the dub, and it's just. I don't know. I really, really did not enjoy my second watch. Like, I still enjoyed it for the visuals. I still enjoyed it for the music when nobody was singing. But it was like watching... I don't know. It was like watching American Old Boy compared to Korean Old Boy. It's going through the same motions, but it doesn't feel like the same movie at all.
That's unfortunate. I'm wondering whether or not I should recommend this movie to my mom, and I'm pretty sure she's not going to want to see the subtitled version.
Right.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, if you watch it without watching the subtitled version, I'm sure it sounds serviceable, you know?
And if you're not
like,
a giant weeb who's like all used to the Japanese voices and indoctrinated to those being superior anyway.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It will probably be like a superior experience to watch the dub for somebody who's like a total noob, right?
Almost said pleb
Mom.
about George's
What
mom
are you talking
and realized
about
your
my
mistake.
mom about? You're just throwing all this shit at me, and jeez, what did I do to deserve this?
Okay, so maybe your mom's a hardcore otaku. I don't know her, and I'm sorry. But so that actually brings up something interesting for my experience watching this movie, which is it was for the purposes of being aired in the theater that it was at. It was rated G, right?
Okay.
So the sub version, it was obviously a bunch of weebs in there coming in to enjoy this big movie that they've heard about for a
The
long
weebs
time.
went to the subbed one? Oh, the subbed one, right. Sorry. You just-
Yeah. But when we saw the dubbed one, the theater was full of children.
Whoa.
Because it's a cartoon, right?
Yeah, because it's a cartoon.
kids'
So a
film.
bunch of
Rated cartoon.
so a bunch of parents brought in their kids to watch this cartoon, and I just want to like preface this by saying, you're not a bad parent if you take your kid to a PG-13 or even an R-rated movie. I think that exposing your kids to those ideas isn't necessarily a bad thing. But okay, so first off, in this movie, they have stuff about like characters fondling their breasts and potentially masturbating. There's
But
lots
it's
in this
really
movie.
classy about it.
That
Yeah,
latter
they're-
one is super subtextual. I'm sure no one's going to pick up
yeah.
on that if they're not.
It took me 3 views to pick up on that one, and that might just be my mind going crazy.
Yeah, it could well be that, but it's still a mature story, right? Like, this is still about things that kids aren't gonna fucking understand.
Yeah, it's not that I'm worried about kids being like scarred or scared
exposed to anything.
so
It's
much
just
as
boredom,
it's just kids
potentially.
being bored. Yeah, like, good for the parents. They were probably having the time of their lives, but the kids are probably just going to be like, why is there no action?
But yeah, so the kids will either be bored or I don't know. They
might be captivated by the visuals. There's some kids out there who just appreciate
some of them
scenery.
might be like, oh, I can touch my, oh my god.
I think it's not like they're hurting
fine.
anyone.
But okay, so here's the other thing. This screening of this movie that we went to see, the dubbed version that all these kids were in, was preceded by trailers for Snatched, which is an upcoming Amy Schumer R-rated comedy. Rough Night, which is an upcoming like bachelorette party comedy starring Scarlett Johansson and Kate McKinnon. No, it's an R-rated. They kill a male stripper.
Okay.
That's like the
in
main
front of
plot.
a bunch of children.
They kill a male stripper and they swear constantly about it. Like, holy fuck, that stripper's dead. What the fuck, man?
In the trailer?
In the trailer, yeah.
With
This
the
was
kids?
the red band. This was the red band trailer in front of these kids.
Oh my god.
And
That's
for
great.
a movie about a bunch of people who accidentally kill a stripper at their bachelorette party, and then because they moved the body and they think that they're going to get in trouble, they Weekend at Bernie's him for the rest of their night.
What does that mean?
You haven't seen Weekend at Bernie's?
I don't know. I don't watch movies.
They carry the dead body around and pretend like it's still alive using bad puppetry.
Oh, I saw that episode of Always Sunny.
Yeah. Which was it. Anyway, so so this is like a super dark R-rated comedy. I think there might have been a horror movie trailer in front of this. I don't know. But it was all red band trailers in front of this movie because the movie's technically speaking unrated.
But they gave it a G. I'm really surprised they gave it a G. I'm not offended that they gave it a G. It's just like, considering the breast fondling and the town of 500 people that die, I'm surprised that didn't at least bump it up to a PG. But I could still see like a kid who might be able to understand what's going on enjoying it, but I couldn't see it being marketed to kids.
I think it's just parents saw the pretty colors and they were like, our kid wants to see a fucking movie this weekend. Let's take him to a fucking movie. This is a cartoon. They'll enjoy
and that's
it.
Also, like, reminding me, though, that, like, kids these days, they aren't going to know what 2D animation in a theater really looks like unless they see this stuff.
Jeez, that's right.
Yeah, the last...
That's crazy to think about.
Mm-hmm.
The last major motion picture that was, like, 2D animated that I can think of is the Winnie the Pooh movie.
And that was years ago, like 2013, right?
Yeah. I mean,
so
I
maybe
guess
they just want... Maybe there's, like, some deeper nostalgic significance to them. They're like, they want kids to at least know what animation looks like on the movie theater screen. Because, like, when we were kids... I don't know how old you guys were, but at least, like, I was around for the Disney Renaissance in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I still...
My first theater-going experiences were, like, Toy Story 3 and... Toy Story 1. I would be really, really young if it was Toy Story 3. Toy Story 1 and Mulan and The Lion King.
And then around 2003, that all just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
the last
really
one,
suddenly.
Like, we got Princess and the Frog, like, a little while later, and that's it. What I'm really sad about is... So, The Emperor's New Groove kind of killed that, and that's unfortunate, because The Emperor's New Groove is one of the best comedies, like, ever. But what I'm really sad about is that DreamWorks dropped doing 2D animation after Sinbad. So they only did Joseph King of Dreams, they did 2 Bible movies and then Sinbad, and I think Road to El Dorado too. So they did a few 2D animated movies, and they were all gorgeous. They're all some of the most beautiful 2D animated movies I've ever seen. And then they just scrapped it because it wasn't making money, and that makes me really sad. Because that studio was great.
Dang. So yeah, part of me wonders if it's popular with parents for the nostalgia of just seeing good animation again.
These kids were young, like they were like 6, so they were young to the point where I think it was just, we need something to babysit our children for 2 hours, so we don't have to engage with them.
But that's deep down inside, a part of me still thinks that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I mean,
like going to see a cartoon not for kids, but with the kids, just to keep them occupied and to keep me stimulated. Like, that doesn't sound like a bad afternoon out.
Well, I've watched Ponyo a bunch of times with my youngest brother, and so he was like around 6 and 7 when we were watching it. And watching Ponyo with him is an absolute blast, because he's utterly captivated. He's having the time of his life watching this visual Miyazaki spectacle. So there's definitely merit to that experience.
Yeah, but there's like cute animals and action and an element of fantasy to it that isn't abstract, barely acknowledged magic like in Your Name.
Okay, so just before I go into this, I was totally wrong. It's not Joseph King of Dreams. It's Prince of Egypt that was the good one. Joseph King of Dreams was the direct-to-video prequel that sucked. Anyway, but yeah, no, I do definitely, I wish that more kids would be watching 2D animated films, and I do think that there could be a positive experience there. But again, red band trailers in the beginning that say fuck like 40
That's just
times.
Wacky. That's a mistake. Someone made a mistake.
It was, I don't know, the kids seemed to be enjoying it, and the parents were definitely into it, so I think that maybe I may be a little bit too jaded just because I'm such a weeb. And I'm not normally like an anti-dub weeb. Like, I prefer the dubs of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Cowboy Bebop, but I don't know. It was a real letdown the second time I watched it, and it's such a beautiful film. It deserves better.
That's disappointing. I also recently saw Spirited Away, and I actually had a harder time finding a version of it subbed rather than dubbed. That seems like a case where the dub was almost more popular than...
with a lot of the Ghibli films it is.
Yeah, because Walt Disney dubs it with, like, celebrities. And I don't know that that's necessarily the best course of action, because celebrity movie actors can be good voice actors, but it's a very, very different discipline from voice acting.
Yeah,
and
it's a super common problem in video games. Like, Rockstar has totally changed their philosophy on casting after the celebrities didn't do as good a job as the nobodies.
And I mean, like, some big celebrities are really good at voice acting. Like, Billy Bob Thornton is an amazing voice actor. And I say that both because it's relevant to the Disney dub of Princess Mononoke, or I guess the Touchstone dub, or whatever subsidiary of Disney did that. The dub of Princess Mononoke has him in it, and then he's also in that weird ass Wii game Deadly Creatures.
Really?
Yeah, so Deadly Creatures is a God of War style adventure beat 'em up where you play as a spider and a tarantula and a scorpion wandering around the desert as a criminal played by Billy Bob Thornton
I think it's
does some
important-
shady shit.
I think it's important to note that the various arachnid main characters here are not very stylized in their character. They just look like a regular ass creature.
It's a really
it's
cool
a hyper
game.
it's a hyper realistic game.
It's the weirdest thing. Deadly creatures on
It's
the
an
check it out.
arachnid battle sim.
So you haven't. I was wondering if maybe you'd given it a shot. It's actually like a really good video game with a good story, which is weird because it looks like Wii shovelware. It looks like the most Wii shovelware game ever. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Yeah, I have a problem with casting celebrities in dubs in general, just because it's a really mixed bag of if they're going to do well. Shia LaBeouf surprised the hell out of me in Nausicaa.
Nazca.
Yeah, he's really good in that. But just as often, it's like these really crappy middle of the road performances. You see those in front of like The Secret World of Arrietty was just like nothing performances across the board. But Spirited Away does have a pretty good dub, and the thing is that
Lilo's
if you
voice actress for Chihiro, right?
yeah, sorry, who?
I don't know
I-
her name, but she voiced Lilo, and so she was an actual child actress at the time of Spirited Away's dubbing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna Google it really quick. But I know that they did bring in some big voice actors for it. Yeah, so oh god, please just give me the English voice actors. God damn it. So yeah, Devay Chase was so Lilo. So she is like a voice actor, but then for Haku they brought in Jason Marsden. Huh. I think they might actually have just cast voice actors for Spirited Away. That's why Spirited Away has a good dub, because they just cast voice actors in it.
Bless you. Yeah, I guess the shock caught you off guard there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it much, but yeah, looking at this list, it's no big names. And then like with the later Disney dubs, that they're all like, oh hey, check it out, we've got Christian Bale as Howl from Howl's Moving Castle.
Howl's pretty captivating, though.
Howl
I
is
think
pretty captivating, yeah. But
Betty White is in a few. She's one of the old ladies in Ponyo. She puts in a good performance, I think.
Betty White's just a good actress.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Disney dubs are usually pretty good, because Disney is the biggest animation studio in the world in general, so they know how to put together a good audio mix and get good performances out of voice actors. That's one of the things that they do well. But like, I don't know. I know that they had to dub this movie to get it to hit a wide audience.
Mm-hmm. Which makes perfect sense for them to try to do, because I believe this is like the #1 most successful movie in Japan.
Yeah,
Like
The
they're
#1 most
obligated
financially successful Japanese film of all time, I think.
I am not sure if that is true after you account for inflation.
Right.
But it is, like, in terms of raw box office numbers, the highest grossing animated film of all time, or film of all time in Japan. Which is that's always impressive to hear, right? Like,
Yeah.
It didn't get anywhere near the same amount of attention, but they still got a good push out of that for Stephen Chow's film, The Mermaid, which is about a mermaid assassin and is the highest grossing film in Chinese history. I love Stephen Chow. Anyway, let's move away from talking about the dub, because we've been sort of mired in this discussion for a while. What would you guys say is your favorite thing about this movie?
Oof. Okay, I think I have an answer. I don't know if I have elegantly come up with a good way to explain it in my head just yet, but I know the abstract concept I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
And that relates to how pervasive that underlying theme of how complicated but intertwined everyone's lives are.
Mm-hmm.
And how I felt like I carried that with me into real life out of the theater, like just kind of getting spooked by all the people I was walking past, being like, oh my god, now I gotta think about how complicated everyone else's life is for a little while. And that kind of sort of followed me home almost. So I watched the movie just after a trip to Japan, and boy was that the right time to watch it. And I started doing some Googling when I got on the computer after I saw it about some of the weirder things I saw in the movie, and one of them that stuck out to me was the like Shinto dance ritual where they make kuchikumi sake, which turns out to be a real thing.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised at learning that, but I was absolutely positively having my mind blown by watching this link. For listeners, type in YouTube Japanese priestess Miko Kagura dance. I just posted it in the Discord for me and the boys here, and you'll see that that ritual dance of them ringing the bells in a shrine is totally a real thing. I found a YouTube video of girls that look exactly like the girls in the movie doing pretty much exactly the same thing. They don't have a kuchikumi sake ritual in the clip that this tourist who uploaded it on their trip included, but it's just like amazing how many details are there. One of which is that there's a little boombox shoved in the corner playing the music in the background that they're ringing their bells to. So what's that?
That scene in the film was at least partially rotoscoped, because the animation is so fluid on that and so detailed.
Yeah, it is entirely possible that they did. I mean, that's the most fluid and detailed part of the opening as well, so it would make sense.
I thought I read something about it being rotoscoped from the Sakuga blog boys.
Maybe
Sakuga
it is rotoscoped from what these girls in real life are doing in this YouTube video. So in the description, the guy who uploaded it says it's a Kagura dance performed during Shichigo-san at Gokoku Temple in Yamagata. If you highlight Yamagata, search Google for Yamagata, go to the images, you scroll down a bit, and then you see a crater lake. Apparently, this town has...
So do you think that Yamagata is the inspiration for Itomori?
Maybe. There's evidently a ritual that's extremely similar to the one in the movie in some weird town out in the middle of nowhere in Japan that no one knows about, that has a crater lake that's a popular hiking spot about a short drive out of the town. And when I was getting all this stuff, I was like, ooh, what? And like thinking back on it, it makes a lot of sense and maybe shouldn't shock me that the director or the writer or someone just started looking at the history of small towns out in Japan and what landmarks were nearby, and we're just like, okay, let's start writing a sappy tearjerker story and based off of this framework in that we can easily dig up in real life. But when I was like going down the list of this stuff and figuring it out, I was having my mind blown at just how this movie, about how complicated and terrifyingly complex and interconnected real life is actually like legitimately connected very, very strongly to places and people in real life.
Especially in recent years, there's been a push for these anime that are directly based off of real life locations, because it's a huge benefit to a lot of these places. So a month or so ago, I saw that this town that it was based off of has made like $200 million off of tourism pilgrimages that people would go on to visit the real life location of the film.
That's a good idea for a YouTube series.
Yeah,
just go to towns from all the Ghibli movies and do little vlogs at each and every one of them. There you go.
I'm stealing that.
No, don't. Okay, anyways.
But I don't know. So like that is like something that has been done for a while though. Like Anohana, which I brought up earlier, and you should definitely watch, George, because it's only like 11 episodes long, and it is similarly tear-jerking to this. So it may give you some of those good sad anime girl vibes.
Yeah, I can't do anything that's like above 14 episodes. That's the George limit. I ain't got time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I barely want to watch anything if it's over 20 if it's over 12 episodes long.
When are you going to get around to Legend of the Galactic Heroes though?
Yeah, that's the one that you have to watch. Well, no, the thing is that every anime fan really needs to watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes, but never will. So I'm allowed to get away with that. Anyway, Anohana was also set in a real town, and that was a pretty successful TV show. It spawned, like, it got a second airing with a new opening, which rarely ever happens in Japan. They rarely ever rebroadcast an old anime and make a big deal out of that. It also got a live action adaptation, but the thing is that everything in that show is based on a real town, and like the bridge and different landmarks from Anohana have become landmarks in that town that people will go to visit and take pictures at. I don't know if that's necessarily where that trend started.
I'd imagine, if anything, it was K-On! Because K-On! Was massively successful.
And K-On! Was set in a real small town.
Yeah.
So now tourism boards are absolutely pushing for big animated pictures to be set where they are. And it's kind of funny, because, like, with anime especially, and Japanese media in general, I think we're all kind of used to this idea that everything is going to be like a fake pseudo parody of something in real life, like, you know, the classic Wick Donalds, or
on the third viewing I saw there's a KFC billboard in the background of one of the Tokyo shots, and it's out of focus, it's smudged up, but I think they changed it to KEC. So just like adding another foot to the bottom of an F, but they kept the logo exactly the same otherwise.
Yeah, top kek.
KEC.
But they did get the licenses for like a lot of really big businesses in Tokyo, like Tower Records, and
there's Boss coffee machines everywhere.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Boss.
In the SD shopping centers at Shinjuku Station. That's why me and Matt looked at each other, because they actually got lost in one of those and were like trying to match up their Google Map coordinates with ours, and it was exactly what was happening in the movie, with the same buildings with the same signs on them.
Yeah, they do a really, really good job of recreating Tokyo. I don't know if Itomori is a real...
I don't think it is, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was very, very loosely based on this town in Yamagata. Yamagata, I think, is the name of the prefecture. I don't think this guy in the video specifically explains which town it is at.
I don't even think it was necessarily loose. Like, they had tourism programs ready to go, like on the spot there, and it's a very there's a big push towards revitalization of rural areas in Japan, and anime can be a big part of that. PA Works Sakura Quest this season is sort of both on a meta level trying to do that, and then in the context of the story they're also trying to do that.
So here's the thing. I think Itomori is a pastiche of a bunch of different places from Japan. Yeah. Because I'm like looking at a Fast Japan article right now, and apparently the mountain out back with the underworld in it is based on Algashima Island, which is near Tokyo, and then. the train station is Hida Furukawa Station in Gifu. The Hida Sanogu Hiei Shrine is also in Gifu, which is the basis of the shrine steps of her family shrine, and then the lake that Itomori is on is Lake Suwa in Nagano. So
how do you spell Suwa?
Suwa.
I guess it makes sense to spread it out. Then you can go from location to location.
So is Lake Suwa a like actual crater lake?
It might be. But yeah, they make up a lot of. It looks like it could be a crater lake. But what like they made up a fake town using parts of a bunch of other real towns. Is kind of, which is a good way to just make a fake town for your animated movie. And that way they can create their own history for it instead of having to rely on the history of real places. So what was your favorite part of the movie, Lachlan?
Favorite's tough, but one of the standout elements certainly was how for past Shinkai films you can sort of accuse him of leaning on the emotional side of things almost exclusively. This film felt legitimately intelligent. It was just grounded. Part of it is that tight construction I brought up earlier. It's just grounded in a lot of applicable real-world issues. There's sort of this undercurrent of corruption within the local politics going on. There's a commentary upon natural disaster with the very explicit parallels to the Fukushima power plant issue. And so it feels like it's really informed by the world around it, in which the film exists, and comments upon a lot of those topics really presciently.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's a thematically rich film. And I mean, again, the people who don't like Shinkai are picking it apart for plot holes.
Which are there, to be fair.
Yeah, they are there. But
they're just not important.
There's this knee-jerk reaction where if the plot of something isn't 100% consistent, that people think that automatically makes it bad or stupid. And I mean, picking apart plot holes is certainly the premise of a number of my videos about Sword Art Online. I'm not gonna, but my whole premise there is that it's already a bad show and those things just make it worse.
Yeah, in the context of SAO, the presence of those plot holes present a legitimate issue, whereas in the context of the appeal of Kimi no Na wa and the way that it functions, they're not nearly as important or impactful for most viewers.
Like if Kimi no Na wa was trying to create like a very believable sci-fi world.
Shinkai's tried that in the past.
He didn't do a great job of it.
Mixed results.
Yeah, and like if it was going for that, then yeah, the plot holes would be a problem because the believability of the setting is sort of paramount in that kind of movie. But in this, it's more about staying true to the themes and staying true to the characters. And I think that for me, my favorite thing about this film is how much attention to detail was put into building every single character that you meet throughout the story. Like especially Taki and Mitsuha, they have such great
chemistry.
Not chemistry. They have such great detail poured into who they are, like right from the beginning, as Mitsuha is waking up in Taki's room and looking around at the walls and everything. You see he's got these sketches of buildings. You see he's got these architectural textbooks lying around his room. I mean, it's a little on the nose in that he has a big poster that says the word architecture that you see later in the movie. But his hobbies and the type of person he is comes across in how he keeps his room. You immediately get an idea of sort of what life is like with his single dad when he walks out into the rest of their apartment, and you see that it's a little messy. They've got dishes piled up in the sink.
Yep. Fun factoid, Japanese apartments are super messy. Japanese public areas are super clean.
Mm-hmm.
They care a lot more about keeping things tidy up until they get home.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is a function of Japanese apartments also being super tiny.
Yeah. So
like
what? Sorry.
Like the room that I am currently in, which has an attached closet and an attached bathroom, that space total is probably the same size as the Airbnb that Yazzie and I stayed in Japan.
One thing that I had a lot of fun noting was how everyone has their clothes hanging to dry, which is super duper true. Because, yeah, like, I wouldn't notice this if I hadn't been there and done that, but in the previous trip, I ran out of clothes and had to do laundry and found out that the laundry machines in Japan don't really dry your clothes good.
Yeah.
Because of Kyoto Protocol energy conservation, you're supposed to leave your clothes out on a hanger to dry for a day. Then you throw it in the weak-ass, non-heated dryer unit to finish it off. And so when she's, like, waking up and looking around and sees someone else's clothes on the wall, I'm like, oh, that's something that is actually a good signifier of who lives here that other people might not notice unless they've had that problem.
Yeah. And oh man, the film also does like a really, really good job of giving you a sense of each place that you're in, right? Like, I don't think that I've ever seen a movie set in Tokyo that feels as much like Tokyo, or at least my experience of Tokyo, as this one.
It's still more crowded in real life than it is in this movie.
Oh, absolutely, it's more crowded. But I mean, that's
just a testament to how crowded it is, because this is one of the few that actually does go out of its way to show how uncomfortably crowded it can get. There's multiple shots of our main characters like desperately pressed against the glass of trains and elevators.
Yeah,
and that's still like mild in comparison to how crowded it is in real life.
Yeah, that but also the other sides of things that they get across, you know? Like the I don't know how to put this. It's just a beautiful city. And they really convey that sense of this is a character who's from the country and sort of romanticizes Tokyo, and she's seeing it for the first time, and it kind of lives up to her expectations.
Yep.
It is really crowded though, man. I'm lucky in that as a 6'6" guy, I'm above the crowd, so I can at least breathe. But George, I imagine that you were like just pressed under people. I mean, you're still probably taller than the average Japanese person.
Oh wait, I'm 6 foot flat, so I was still a good few inches. The problem, well, there's shitloads of problems, but the most fun problem is that whenever it rains, you're right at face level of everyone else's umbrellas.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, that's oh man, the umbrella thing is now that's reminding me of Persona 5, and I want to go play Persona 5 some more. Persona 5 is another one of those things that really captures the feel of Tokyo exceptionally well. Like right down to having to pay extra fares to go to places that are off your usual like train pass route.
Just swipe your Passmo.
Yeah. Oh man, I miss Passmo. I miss Japan.
Everything's so convenient over there.
Mm-hmm. Except for drying your clothes.
And everyone's so nice and polite over there.
Yeah. Or you can't quite tell if it's condescending polite because you're a foreigner they assume is dumb. Or
all the food is so tasty over there.
It is. Their McDonald's is better than our McDonald's.
There we go. I finally got you on one thing. Didn't get any like negative. Oh well, there's a downside to it for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Just need to make a few more SAO videos. I'll be on my way to Japan myself.
Yeah,
that's a good plan.
Really, really fun movie to see after doing a Japan trip.
Mm-hmm.
Like specifically after. Don't see it before.
I mean, do see it before if you get the chance, because it's a really, really good movie. But also see it after.
The iron is going to be the most hot after.
And man, the music in this movie is so good. So sorry to get distracted. I'm just remembering some of the theme songs and
So,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, so go ahead.
I was actually going to see if I might be so bold as to switch notes to criticisms of the film.
Yeah.
Because not regarding plot holes that I can tolerate. There is like one bit of more all-encompassing criticism that I do think is valid. I do agree with, but I also still love the movie to death regardless. And that is that Mizuha easily gets the lion's share of plot time and development and detail. Because, like, we don't know what happened to Taki's mom, but we sure as hell know what happened to Mizuha's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we don't know what his dad is up to, but we know a shitload about what her dad is up to.
Yeah,
And that's something that seemed like odd to me for how dedicated it is to displaying both of them as equals, because one of them has a lot more going on than the other.
So I think Mizuha definitely has more in her past, right? Like, she has more backstory, and she is the focus of the climax of the movie, you know? But I think Taki kind of has more going on in terms of what's happening in his life right now. Like, the big points that move the story forward are almost more than half of them are enacted by Taki doing something. Like, him trying to go find Mitsuha is sort of the big shift, you know, into the second act. And leads to everything changing in the third act. We see a little bit more of his perspective throughout the movie. And of course, he's got, you know, the things going on with that new girl, the girl that he likes at his work, and
yeah,
you don't...
I mean, maybe a way to think about it is that she gets the backstory and he gets the future story. Because now that I think about it, we sure as hell know like what she was doing before the events, but we sure don't really know what she's doing after. Like, she ends up in Tokyo, and we see that when they track each other down, but you don't really get an explanation behind why or how she ended up there. Whereas,
or what her job is, and yeah,
right,
he's going to interviews at architecture firms and
that are turning him down, and he like is still friends but not going out with his old boss.
And she's like getting married.
You know, one thing I noticed on the third viewing, this is more backstory on Mizuha's side of the pile. So she still has a bigger pile, I feel. But thinking about it, rejiggering my thoughts in those terms makes the exchange a little more fair. But there's one, maybe two, maybe three frames in which Mizuha is opening a notebook on her desk, and it has a cute little needle mouse design on it that is what she sews into the boss's skirt at the Italian restaurant. And when I noticed that, I was like...
There's a lot of like little continuity details like that are just a little mind-blowing that they thought about that far.
Like she's drawn that needle mouse before.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from on that criticism. Because he doesn't have that backstory, at least because he doesn't have that explicit backstory, Taki does feel like a little bit of a less complete character. Like, the only things that we really see about his past are him watching that meteor shower, which is more of a what was he doing when this thing killed Mitsuha, and him him getting the braided cord from Mitsuha on that train, which I think is a really cool way of almost creating like a time loop. Like it's almost like she chose him to be the person she swaps bodies with later, because she created that connection.
Well, wait. At the time, though, she was having body swaps with him from the future.
Right, because she had the braided cord in the past, but he had the braided cord in the future.
But she wouldn't have gone to Tokyo and tossed him the braided cord unless she was having body swaps with him.
But time all ties together in like a flow, right? But maybe, like she created that connection with him at that moment when she handed him the cord. It's a loop.
Whoa. But wait. If there is a version of Mizuha that just incidentally tosses him the cord for no reason, we don't see that.
But time in Japan is convoluted.
But I mean, that's assuming that there's like multiple timelines that like create new timelines, as opposed to I mean he does create a new timeline, maybe, but it's
a big deal.
He kind of he just changes his timeline though, right? Because he wakes up and he's in that timeline where the town was saved.
Mm-hmm.
Like after Twilight happens, he is in the timeline where that town was saved, and time sort of shifts together. So, the time travel in this movie is weird and hard to wrap your head around, and I don't think
time travel should be.
Yeah, like Primer is the gold standard and will always be the gold standard. But yeah, it's interesting to think about though. Like, did by giving him that braided cord, did she create that loop? But his story only really becomes relevant to us after he meets her, and then he really he learns stuff about her, whereas she spends more time learning about his personal life now. And yeah, it is kind of hard to justify not knowing a lot about his dad or his mom. I do feel like that is missing from the story, but there are background details that let you infer things about what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
like the architecture information in his room, right? Like the architecture books and stuff in his room tell you a little bit about what he's interested in, and he never actually says, "Oh, I'm studying architecture. I want to be an architect." You just see that in what draws his attention when he's at the gallery on that date, and other little background details like that. And with his dad, all you really need to know about him is that he's really a little bit too busy for his son, and that he.
I think that does inform how he interacts with Mitsuha's father a little bit later on in the film.
Yeah,
his own experiences with parental figures, you can see it reflected there through inference mostly again.
They're both, come to think of it, I guess they're both parents who were too busy and distant for their kids.
Mm-hmm.
They have a similar situation with their parental relationships. It's just, Mizuha has way more time spent going into the details of exactly why she has that difficult relationship with her father.
A lot more of the movie happens in her town, a lot of the plot details and things. So we sort of, in learning about the mythology of the town and all these other details that are relevant to the rest of the film, we also end up learning about her, whereas most of the stuff in the film is done by our male lead here. And so he's sort of the agent acting, whereas in a lot of it she's more passive as we're learning things about just the setup of the surrounding film. So the sort of unequal distribution of information there, I think is sort of an inevitable result of that setup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't have time. They might literally just not have time.
They might not have screen time, and maybe there'll be deleted scenes on the Blu-ray that explain that stuff.
Well, there's no deleted scenes in animation.
There can be. Like, there can be all the time. They storyboard out or write a scene.
There could be deleted storyboards. Yeah, I mean the film did get somewhat comprehensively reworked from Shinkai's original draft. The producer came in. Mm-hmm. And specifically, it was with the latter portion of the film. He changed some things around to make it work better.
Yeah, and probably good that he did, because Shinkai is not necessarily the
people
best.
Noted, that Shinkai seems to have been reined in a bit with some of his more typical flourishes, and we can assume, though not be totally confident in the fact that this producer's influence there was responsible for this.
But yeah, I mean, with deleted scenes you can get as far as like an animatic and voiceover for a scene, and then it just doesn't work, so you cut it.
Right.
Sometimes even fully animated bits, like not necessarily whole scenes, but if you look at Pixar DVDs, there are fully animated segments of those movies that just get cut out because it flows better. But yeah, like I'm saying, like I said, maybe there's some kind of backstory there, but I do kind of feel like it also gives you a sense of the difference between like Tokyo life versus life in the country, where in the country you kind of know everything about your neighbor, and in the city you're too busy to like catch up on the backstory.
Tokyo moves fast, right? So you don't have time to sort of stew on the past and mire in it as maybe Mitsuha does a bit more. And she's got nowhere to... at the beginning of the film, she's complaining she's got nowhere to go and nothing to do, so she's kind of just stuck reliving and reflecting upon all of these elements of herself, whereas Taki's too busy to stop and think.
Yeah, it's... maybe we're just making like justifications for the movie because we like it. But it does kind of thematically work. And it's not a perfect film, right? Like this is the highest rated best anime of all time according to my anime list, and like a lot of people are heralding this
Shinkai is the next Miyazaki.
Shinkai is the next Miyazaki, which I mean, like a few years ago people were heralding
Hosoda?
Yeah, Hosoda. God, I'm blanking on names today.
Back then it was like Shinkai was still in the running. It was Hosoda and Shinkai that were the two names sort of being floated.
And Hosoda and Shinkai are still the two names being floated.
Yeah.
Who's Hosoda?
He did
Summer
Wolf Children.
Wars. Summer Wars, Wolf Children, and...
Digimon, Our War Game.
And The Girl Who Leapt Through Time.
Oh. Yeah,
so
I haven't seen any of those, but I've read about them.
Yeah, they're good like, Shinkai is one of... sorry, God, even I'm getting them mixed up now. Hosoda is one of my favorite directors. But, like, both he and Shinkai have problems with how they tell stories. That I don't think that this is quite on the same level of absolute majesty as especially late period Ghibli. But it's a good ass movie, you know? It is a strong, emotionally resonant movie. Definitely in my top 100 movies I've ever seen. I love it. I've also heard that a silent voice is even better, so I'm excited to see that. I'm sure.
I mean, I enjoyed this film a great deal. I wasn't particularly invested in it at any point. I think I gave it an 8 out of 10. But I'm a big Yamada Naoko. I'm a big sort of KyoAni character drama fan. Mm-hmm. So I imagine Silent Voice will be right up my alley.
Yeah, and for me, I would probably give it like a 9 out of 10. or a gold medal rating on my medal rating scale. I do enjoy it quite a lot, but like, I think that saying it's the best anime film of all time is a little silly.
It's the best anime film of all time.
It's the best one that you've seen, but also, like, it's really, really good. But I don't think that Shinkai or Hosoda are quite on the same level as Miyazaki or other really, really great anime directors like Satoshi Kon, which, man, what a loss.
Jeez.
Or Mamoru Oshii. You know? Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to watch any of those because I saw Your Name. I could just die now, and I'll be okay with that.
If you're happy with that, I like, yeah.
Your Name, you heard it here, folks. It's the official Weebcast opinion that Your Name is the best anime movie of all time. It's perfect, 10 out of 10 across the board. You heard it here first, folks.
And last.
So yeah, no, I can only guess that the more of these I watch, the less spectacular Your Name is gonna appear. Because like right now, for me and my underdeveloped pleb tastes, like it really is like one of, if not the best films I've ever seen.
Well, even for the less uninitiated than yourself, as Jeff mentioned, Your Name is held in extremely high regard by the anime community as a whole. So you're not an outlier opinion by any means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's
but it is a 10 on 10 for me. Like, not even there being a slight argument. Like, this is my 10.
This is a 10 movie for you, and that's like,
that's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. I mean, I can't see any explicit flaws with this movie that I would make me mark it down. So it's really just a matter of like personal taste, my viewing experience of it, like the theater that I was in, the people I saw it with, affecting it. And in a different scenario, if I watched it on a different day, or if I'd seen different anime recently, it might be a 10 out of 10 for me too. You know, like, it's very well executed and well made, and I'm not yet ready to arrive at like a definitive conclusion for what I would give it, you know? Because I mean, obviously with any sort of formal review, you gotta go back and forth, but it's a good ass movie. That's all you need to know. I mean, if you've listened to this whole podcast, I'm sorry, you should have ducked out sooner if you hadn't seen it yet, but it is very worth seeing. And I'm kind of excited to hear what you think of it, George, after you've seen more anime films, if you ever get around to watching more anime films, which, I don't know, you got a lot of video games to play, so maybe you never will. But
no, that's like totally reasonable. I might actually, like, right now, me and the girl are now going through the old Star Wars trilogy for some reason I don't know, but we were going through anime earlier, and that somehow fizzled out.
Yeah, it's yeah. And I think that, like, as you watch more films, your opinion on how fresh everything in this movie might change, but I don't think that it will drop significantly in your estimation, because, like Lachlan was saying, the anime community loves this movie too. So I yeah, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tired because my cat kept us up late last night.
It's okay. I just don't know if I want to get to a point where dead girls writing letters from the past becomes a genre of things for me to compare other things to, because like that's probably when it happens, when the law of diminishing returns really kicks in.
There's not that many of them. Like, there's just enough that you can be like, yeah, this is a thing. You know? Like how it wasn't overwhelming at the point that, say, The Walking Dead came out. But when The Walking Dead Season 1 came out, dad guiding young girl through tough world was becoming a thing. And by the time The Last of Us came out, it was maybe too much of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Subgenre saturation.
Yeah, I mean, these thematic ideas, people bounce back and forth between different ones. But I will say that if you are interested in seeing one more of those, Anohana's the best one. Two more. Clanad After Story is probably the better one, but I like Your
That's
Lie.
a big episode investment.
That is a big episode investment, and I like Your Lie in April a little bit more, personally. Even though I will admit that Your Lie in April is not the best directed anime of all time.
If I go down the Shinkai filmography, what should my next choice be?
5 centimeters per second is probably the most noteworthy one.
Mm-hmm.
That's his big, really emotionally gut-wrenching one. I'd say his most aesthetically pleasing one is Garden of Words, which is only like 53 minutes.
Yeah, that's... And then the most just stab and twist in your gut for no particular reason is She and Her Cat. Or Kanojo no Neko. Kanojo to
Kanojo no Neko.
Yeah. Which is... oh. That's just 4 episodes of things getting progressively fucking sadder. It's based on, I think, his short film that he did as a thesis. But it's just a sad ass thing. If you're interested in, I would say that most of Mamoru Hosoda's filmography is better than most of Shinkai's filmography.
It's more consistent for sure, I'd say.
I jumping from this, I would say you would have the best time actually going into The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and Wolf Children. Like Hosoda has... Girl Who Leapt Through Time is, and Summer Wars are 10 out of 10 movies for me, but objectively, I mean, there's no such thing as objective evaluations of quality, but in terms of just like detached analysis of the quality of the film, I don't think Hosoda's ever created like a definitive 10 out of 10 masterpiece, but he always creates really, really solid 8 to 9 out of 10 great films. Is kind of
they're pretty good at connecting emotionally, so they're films with the potential for 10 out of 10, depending upon who you are.
Yeah, exactly. This is all. Whereas with Shinkai, his films are a little bit all over the place in terms of quality, especially in terms of quality of writing. Like, they're emotionally resonant, but they can feel more emotionally manipulative than resonant. Even though I hate that criticism because it's often lobbed at things that I like. But his stuff is a lot less consistent. But as far as Your Name goes, this is the one that is both the best executed and the one that connects best with me on like a personal level, because I just went through having a long distance relationship and went through the effort of bringing that together so we could live together. So that's emotionally resonant for me. And maybe that's one of the reasons that I'm saying 9 out of 10 instead of 10 out of 10, because I want to try to be a little bit more detached from this thing that is very personally relevant to me right now.
Dang.
If that makes sense.
That's a deep cut.
But yeah, anyway, the main point is you should watch more anime, George. Please start with Anohana. Or,
which you can watch on crunchyroll.com/basement.
With a 30-day free trial, you get to watch all the anime you want, which is probably not much. Let's be real. You have a lot of video games to play. But
I'm pretty sure Anohana's on there.
It is. That's where I watched it. Although it's a Nice America, it got licensed by Nice America, which means that it only is in 480p quality on Crunchyroll. Nice America does a kind of shitty thing where they're with their licensing, where they'll still let it be on Crunchyroll, but they won't let the HD version be on Crunchyroll. Although I want to say nice things about Nice America right now, because tomorrow, May 9th, which is my birthday, they are releasing a video game called Birthdays the Beginning, which is, I am taking as definitive proof that the universe revolves around me. So I'm pretty happy with Nice America right now.
Happy birthday, dude.
Thank you.
I'm gonna send you one of those videos of those modular happy birthday YouTube videos where they just like automatically generate a CGI of like the 20th Century Fox logo, but with the most common names on it. Let's see if Joff is there.
I hope so.
Send him a pair of George socks, which you can purchase for yourself at
backdrop.com/ hang on, let's see what he made it this time.
Gotta make sure everyone gets their shilling today.
Yeah.
We actually just started a new George sock campaign. I haven't even made the video for it.
The perfect birthday gift.
Let's see. Superbunnyhop Crew might be the one. Nope. Sorry, I have to bring up my email client and see what he made the link this time if I'm going to do the shill. But in the meantime, I guess I'll watch more anime on Crunchyroll, right?
Yeah, go to crunchyroll.com/basement and watch 30 days of free anime for free.
Wow, what a bargain.
And if you like that, go to lootcrate.com/basement. You can sign up for Loot Anime and you'll get a discount either with your Crunchyroll subscription or also with the Loot Crate code BASEMENT. And then you can get free anime stuff so you can have t-shirts with the waifus you like on them.
Are you
tired give him the bookwalker.
Of not having a life full of merchandise and online subscription services? Now you don't have to be.
Do you think that too much of your money is in your credit card this month? I can change that.
If you go to backdrop.com/SuperBunnyHopCrew, you can come home about 2 weeks later with a pair of socks of your own, for novelty purposes only, that feature my face and blue threads.
I can verify that these blue socks featuring the cold exterior of George and the warm interior of Socks are some of the most comfortable socks I've ever worn. I'm not even joking. They are very comfy socks. Although the pattern on them did wear out pretty fast. But to be fair, I wore them to MagFest, and you walk around a lot there.
The crystal clarity of George socks and color keeping may not last more than 2 weeks at a time, but other than that, George socks are a great steal at just... What do they have them this time? Hang on, I gotta bring the page back up. I closed it in a tab of all the anime GIFs I've been looking at.
In the meantime, head on over to patreon.com/thepedanticromantic, where soon I'll be able to afford to move out into a place without constant risk of sounds of pots and pans in the background as the rest of the family prepares dinner while I record podcasts.
Maybe you can move into Digibro's sex dungeon with the Devu.
into his RV now.
Are they in an RV now?
His plan is to be for himself. Davu and Ben moved out.
Huh.
He's gonna tour the country.
Oh, that's neat. I haven't talked to him in a little while, but the last I saw of his place, he was living in a castle.
Yeah.
And not a real castle, but his dad made a castle and a bar themed like a castle in their garage.
If you have enough money to build a castle, you probably have $14 to throw around on George socks. Before a $4.30 shipping charge.
So what was your catchphrase again, George?
I'm George Weidman, and I don't want to live on the streets again.
Thank
Brilliant.
you.
So for the commercial this time, I'm going with the esports gamer socks theme, where
Nice.
where one of my selling points is that George socks are guaranteed to last over 40 million clicks. To keep you fragging for hang on, what is not drag, frag. George socks were designed for the world's best esports athletes. Their durable nylonized coating provides a better grip and feel to keep you fragging for over 100 billion clicks. Expand your play with one-size-fits-all 200-needle machine stitching to prestige your ankles and keep your feet always ready for action.
You should put like a little disclaimer when you say the 400 billion clicks thing or whatever. Just like have a little asterisk that say this guarantee is not guaranteed if the socks are on your feet.
Okay. So the
something.
guarantee does not apply when the socks are being used the way they're intended to be used.
Guarantee does not
Yeah.
apply when socks are worn.
One thing I'm gonna have is the price show up on the screen, but have a cheaper price slashed out in the back. And there's also going to be a montage of a bumbling idiot not being able to wear socks good in black and white at first.
Perfect.
And I don't want to spoil the exact gags, but they're prepare yourself for gags with the George Socks Gamer Socks guarantee.
The George Socks commercial, like the first one, is one of my favorite comedy videos of like the last year on YouTube. I actually highly recommend checking it out if you're listening to this.
Yeah,
and
I'm
you
gonna
haven't
keep
seen
that
it
one
already.
up. The Christmas one isn't as good, but hopefully this new one I have prepped up will give everyone the giggles all over again.
Because you know that the giggles are what sell socks.
It's true.
It's true.
I mean, I bought 2 pairs of those socks, and I wear
Did
them.
you giggle?
I giggled a lot.
See,
And
there you go. It's proof. Giggle
Yeah.
your feet with George.
So I guess that George Socks marketing kind of accounts for our what we did this week. Because that's kind of what we branch into after we talk about the movie, but we kind of just went there diegetically. So
I can also just mention my incredulity at the unfailing power of SAO. I'm not sure if you saw it, but last week I put up a video not even about SAO really. I just ham-fisted it into the title and thumbnail because I'm savvy like that. And it had settled around the low 20K range, but then it hit the algorithm, and now it's over like 340,000 views.
Nice.
Just because it's SAO.
Holy
It's
shit.
ridiculous.
which video is this?
It's the one that's actually about the king's avatar that I just made a tenuous tie to SAO.
Oh yeah, that was a good video. But yeah, I mean SAO always does well. My ordinal scale movie is my old ordinal scale video is only at 341,000, which I didn't expect.
I might be higher than that with this, honestly.
Yeah, I mean I made the mistake of making a 40-minute video about
That's true.
a 32-minute video picking apart every plot hole.
Yeah.
But yeah, the SAO always does well. I've got 3 videos over 1 million views that can attest to that. Anything that is like in the search engine algorithm that you put in your title is gonna do pretty well. I mean, George, I was kind of surprised that you. I mean, I don't know if it was brilliant or silly not to put the title of Breath of the Wild in your Breath of the Wild video.
It was a deliberate attempt to get as few people watching it as possible. I broke every single SEO rule that the channel manager was telling me to follow. The official language of that video is Abkhazian. The category is news and politics. The thumbnail is just a close-up of a branch texture. And the tags, I don't know if you've noticed, you can verify by right-clicking the page and hitting source and Control-Fing for keywords. The tags are how to do taxes, fishing advice, and dark sector.
And you got 300,000 views on it.
Just because it's Zelda.
Yeah, I mean...
Zelda is not in the title, description, thumbnail, tags. The official language is Abkhazian. Abkhazian people are going to log onto YouTube and see that. Because it's probably like the highest performing Abkhazian video of all time.
Oh, man. So...
I didn't even know that was a country until I played Metal Gear Rising.
You're with Screenwave Media, right?
Oh, Maker. Which means I probably won't be for long.
Oh, yeah. They're having their big culling right now.
Their big closeout fire sale. Everything must go.
Because it's all on fire.
Woo, that's a nervous laugh.
But yeah, that... Oh, God. I'm glad that video is doing well for you, Lachlan. The world still needs to be reminded that SAO is shit over and over again forever. That's my mission in life.
And I did a funny little meta thing with it, where I just, because of the fact that SAO criticism is done to death, like, I hardly ever mention the criticisms themselves. I just sort of take that whole conversation that's been going on for years now as given, and just bring up the facts at a few moments very briefly to establish the tie to justify the thumbnail. But I don't actually hold the conversation because everyone's tired of it at this point.
Should I make a Sword Art Online criticism video?
You absolutely can, and it will absolutely get 1 million views.
Yeah, review one of the video games. They're bad.
So why is this thing that's so popular that everyone hates so popular?
I'm actually making a video right now.
As am I.
Oh, man.
Don't worry, I've got a unique angle. I won't step on your toes, I'm sure, Jeff.
Okay, yeah. My video... We should talk about this later. But I'm making a video specifically exploring what it is about SAO that attracts people to it, beyond the obvious wish fulfillment of I am a video gamer who wants to have a fulfilling, emotionally satisfying relationship with a single woman, but also have a harem of hot girls who want to fuck me all the time.
Yeah, I'll be on more of the meta sort of YouTube conversation side of it, like my How Did You Bro Killed an Anime series there.
Yeah, which was a fascinating video. One of my favorites in recent memory, mostly because it talks about the historical significance of me. You should do more of those, Lachlan. Talk about me.
Yeah, there's one in the way.
Wait, okay. But yeah, the SAO is interesting to talk about because, like, it's both got a very sizable backlash against it at this point of people who are just like, this show's terrible. Everybody knows it's terrible. It's kind of one of the default terrible anime that people point to when they talk about terrible anime. But unlike a lot of other terrible anime, in terms of direction and production, it's very, very serviceable. You know? It's
easier to justify than a lot of others. Because there's surface elements that seem like good anime. Yeah,
it is a well-made bad anime for the most part. It has some really bad animation in places, but so do lots of well-made anime. And the fight scenes suck. That's the other video that I'm working on. Why the fight scenes suck, because the fight scenes really suck. And people are. It's one of those things where it's like, so, George.
Yeah.
To bring this back to video games. You know how when people talk about Hitman Absolution, they say, well, it's not a good Hitman game, but it's a good action game.
Yeah, and that just means they have bad taste in video games.
Exactly.
Yep.
That means that
Yep.
they aren't aware of what default third-person shooter is, and the fact that it's like the most
Dark
basic.
Sector.
Yeah. Or even. Yeah. Dark Sector is default third-person shooter with a jetpack.
Only one person noticed that was my tag, and I pinned that comment.
Nobody looks at the tags, unfortunately. I put some good gags in there sometimes.
Not according to my channel manager at Maker Studios, who got laid off. He's actually a really cool guy. I had a meal with him in Tokyo. We ate chicken uteruses.
That
Fun
sounds
story.
delightful. But yeah, the SAO is sort of like good anime if you don't really know anything about what good anime is, but the presentation and production values are appealing, and it is technically well put together in the same way that a video game with no glitches and nice graphics and sort of decent game feel is a good video game.
Oh, so not like Dark Sector.
Yeah, no, not like Dark Sector. More like, that's why I say Hitman Absolution. Because Hitman Absolution is a bad video game, but Hitman Absolution is a good video game. You know what I mean?
It's okay.
Yeah, it's that, but that's it. That's it. It's just okay, but it's okay on like a high scale. I don't know.
And I don't know about you guys, but the older I get, the less I want to spend my time playing only okay things.
And watching only exactly. That's people
I'm
have
gonna
accused...
die someday. I gotta make sure I spend that time wisely. You know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, you're a YouTube video game reviewer, so I don't know if you've made the best choice in that regard. But
yeah, it's actually becoming a big problem these days. Anyways.
Oh god.
But
Digibro was saying you should open a Patreon. The second you open a Patreon, you'll have your living secured.
I am actually going to be doing that in a few weeks after my current shill schemes die down a bit. I'm thinking at least of going that distance.
I shot you my my referral link, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But yeah, the thing about like, oh god, where did we? I've lost track of what I was gonna say. It is kind of hard being a YouTube reviewer because you do have to dive into the stuff that is not good.
You know what really sucks about being a YouTube reviewer?
What?
Any complaints you make about it sound 10 times whinier to everyone else who isn't a YouTuber and don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And I hate that. I hate that I know how whiny I sound, but I also hate that I still have to spend most of my life killing my love for video games by playing the only okay ones for most of my time. And that really sucks, having a part of your self-identity that you grew up with gradually turn into just another job to throw in the pile. But holy crap, will no one else be able to identify with that problem?
Yeah, it's the unique problem of turning your hobby into a career, which people are going to say we're being whiny for complaining about it, but that trying to avoid the mediocre is my whole philosophy with my review system, which is basically I have bronze, silver, gold, and platinum medal ratings, which are for things I recommend a lot, things I recommend a crazy amount, things that I will break into your house and make you fucking experience.
I noticed that you don't have a wood or
I
a
don't,
coal medal. I
just don't give a medal to things that are or even things that are all right, like a 7 out of 10 on IGN is I mean, there is the problem that people think a 7 out of 10 is bad. But at the same time, there are so many 8 and 9 out of 10s and 10 out of 10s out there that a 7 out of 10 is not worth your time. Just by virtue of what else you could be spending your time on. Unless, it's a 7 out of 10 that appeals to your specific sensibilities.
Right.
And it also really changes... sorry.
So the only other rating that I have on my scale is a black metal, which is something that's so awful that it's entertaining. Like Magus, which is my favorite bad video game, or Sword Art Online. Sword Art Online is something I'd give a black metal because it's so bad that I get infinite entertainment out of talking about it.
What would you give Garzy's Wing?
Black metal.
Yeah.
Hard
definitely.
black metal. Maybe 2 black metals. I don't know.
That's a lot of black metal. That's a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of
Like an
screaming
obsidian
into
metal.
a microphone.
It's black, but it shines through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Garzy's Wing is a good time. I would also probably give that to the greatest anime ever made, Mad Bull 34.
Your name?
Yes, Mad Bull 34. I mean, you think that Your Name is pretty good, but consider, wouldn't it be better if Taki at one point confronted a bunch of gangsters by ripping off his pants and pulling a bunch of grenades attached to his pubes and throwing them at those gangsters? Wouldn't it be better if in the middle of a very serious police investigation, the Predator showed up and started serial killing cops in Chicago? Wouldn't it be better that way? I think
It sounds stupid.
It's the best. It's the best. It's very stupid though. But yeah, like I have there's this whole middle ground between like 3 out of 10 and 7 out of 10 that is not worthwhile because it's just either yeah or boring. Boring is the worst thing that entertainment can be. If something makes me angry, if something gets me upset because it's so fucking bad, I would rather experience that than fuck, man. Like
I think that's true. That's like actually
Yeah.
my line of reasoning behind why I think the new Star Wars movies are only okay. Like the prequels were so much more worse, and that made them a lot more fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I do legitimately think that Episode 7 is a really good movie for a lot of reasons, but yeah, I can definitely see why somebody would rather watch the prequels than that on the grounds that you can at least
feel
make
like
fun of those.
The prequels were more of a cultural event because you can make more jokes about them and get more references about them and other things. It just felt like they were more of an institution.
There's more points of interest.
Because they were so much bigger of an event by how disappointing they were.
I mean, I think that the thing with Star Wars is it's gonna turn into something with the same appeal as the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And I was a huge Star Wars fan kid when I was growing up, and it would like break my heart to see an endless universe of only okay Star Wars movies coming out from now on. Like I don't know. It's the most like nostalgic whiny thing, but I think I was almost having more fun during the prequel era. Because the other funny thing is that during the shitty prequel movies, during the years they were coming out, the very best of the Star Wars games were coming out.
Oh yeah, man.
So you had like the best and the worst of both worlds to enjoy at the same time.
It was kind of stark, that difference. And yeah, I don't know if they'll just be okay. Like, I think that Episode 7 was 70% of the way to being a really, really great Star Wars movie. And it was just dragged down by having to start a new story. And I am still looking forward to where that trilogy goes. But I think, because the thing is that with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, most of the movies are just, you go and see them and you know that you will be entertained for a while. And not a lot of them are really great, but some of them are really great. Like Guardians of the Galaxy is a really, really great movie. Captain America, The Winter Soldier is a really, 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 really great movie. Civil War is also pretty, like, elevated by good action scenes, even if it is a little more all over the place. So the thing about cinematic universes is that the existence of the great movies in those kind of elevates the okay movies that have things that enhance those great movies and are enhanced by those great movies. So there's sort of a feedback loop where by making enough good, I'm not even going to say okay, I'm going to say good but not great things, and a few great things, you can make the experience of being invested in that worthwhile. And that's kind of the same logic with watching like 60 episode anime series like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which the individual episodes of Brotherhood are almost all fucking excellent, but the experience of watching that over time and getting the payoff makes it more worthwhile. So I don't know. That's a whole other. I should do a whole other thing about that. It's just gets my brain spinning.
Indeed.
So like, the investment makes the payoff sweeter.
Yeah, exactly. And that can make things that are okay better too. Yeah. Like a 7 out of 10 sequel to a video game you really, really loved is probably going to be more worthwhile for you to play than an 8 out of 10 thing in a series you're not interested in, you know? Mm-hmm. But I like for the most part, I would much rather watch something terrible like Akashic Record of the Bastard Magical Instructor than something painfully fucking mediocre like Sakurada Reset or
I'm not sure how far into that you got, but I went on some Twitter rants because it delves into just so up its own ass. It's kind of hilarious territory.
Okay, maybe I'll go back to that. Or
specifically, there's an obsession with the concept of a MacGuffin, where the main character will just go around asking every person he interacts with if they know what a MacGuffin is. And this will occur 4, 5, 6, 7 times in an episode. Individual instances of him just requesting the definition of a MacGuffin.
Ugh. I guess a better example of just mediocre would be Clockwork Planet or Sugumomo.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Sugumomo, the most nothing anime of the season. Which apparently it has a good manga. Anyway, experiencing mediocre stuff just feels like a waste of time at this point. But the flip side of me trying to focus as much of my attention as I can on the things that I really fucking love or the things that I really fucking hate is a bunch of people on Reddit have this idea in their head that I'm not a fair and balanced critic and that I only ever like praise the shit out of something.
Oh my God.
or tear into it unfairly and there's no middle ground. And
could it be that maybe the uninteresting middle of the road opinions are just the ones that you don't devote entire videos to? Could it maybe just be that fact, Reddit, or anime?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could be that. Maybe if you watched my season recaps, you'd see a lot of me being like, it's okay. But here's the other problem. If a series is just okay, I'm not going to fucking finish it, right?
True, that too.
So I don't feel comfortable doing like a full review of it.
Okay, I play sometimes a lot of only okay video games all the way to completion and then do a video about that, and it's only okay and it's not that fun of a video because I didn't have that much fun making it. And I do that though because I've never felt comfortable making a judgment towards something until I'd gone all the way through it. Like, I don't like the idea of being excited about it, like the Sexy Brutale. The Sexy Brutale came out, it got really great reviews, and I'm thinking about doing that for my video next week. And it's supposed to be short, like 6 to 8 hours long, and I know I'm going to play through it all the way to the end. But if it turns out to be something that's not my jam, like, I will not be able to bring myself to stop it. Like, I'll still want to give it a chance no matter what, even if it's, like, really not a George game. Like, I bought Xenoblade Chronicles X and started it up about a week ago, and I've, like, hated the past hour and a half of it. But now I'm invested. I want to get my money's worth out of it, and I won't make a point of it on my schedule, but I have now opened up this beast to to completion later on.
Have you played Xenoblade Chronicles 1?
No, I really should, shouldn't I?
Yeah, so here's the thing. X is very okay, but X, they also went for a very, 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 very anime plotline. Whereas, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 has a much cooler world to explore, and that makes it better. Like, your experience of Breath of the Wild, I know you didn't like it as much as me, but your experience of Breath of the Wild was, I'm sure, a little bit modulated by how interesting the environment you were going through was at any given time.
Yeah.
Like when you're up in the mountains, like when you're up in the mountains and you're shield surfing everywhere, or you're seeing the giant Leviathan skeletons in the desert and stuff like that. That's cooler than running around in a big field, right?
Depend. I don't. When you run around a big field in Zelda, it's pretty fun.
It is pretty fun.
The frame rate's better there for some reason.
Yeah. It's. But like in general, the more interesting the environment is, the more interesting it is to explore. As just a general rule of thumb.
Yeah,
and
that's a safe assumption.
I bring that up because Monolith Soft made Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is set in this cool alien environment that's just mostly like neat rock formations and stuff like that. I haven't finished it, so maybe there's some big stuff that changes later that makes it cooler. But Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is set entirely on the bodies of two nation-sized Titanic monsters who like froze mid-combat after killing each other, and a bunch of creatures have like eked out existences by building settlements into their feet and onto their knees and onto like their backs and the top of their heads.
Is that a spoiler?
No, that's
oh, okay, good.
That's
I was about to be like, that sounds like a really cool revelation moment.
Yeah, no, that's just, like, right away they tell you that that's what it... There are cool revelation moments in it, because... I don't know, I feel like... I haven't finished much of Xenoblade Chronicles X, because it didn't have that wow factor of how cool the environments are in Xenoblade Chronicles. And the story didn't have the same hook. Like, Xenoblade Chronicles does not have a silent protagonist. Xenoblade Chronicles has like a very lively cast of characters who all bounce off of each other in interesting ways. And that makes it better. There's lots of things that make it better than Xenoblade Chronicles X. It's one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. So I would say that before...
see a video on my channel about it until it's like all the way completed.
Which is going to take you a while.
Yeah, I don't think I may ever really make a priority out of it. I just like wanted to bring this up because video games take a long time, and I don't really know if I like them or not until maybe hours after beating them.
Yeah, that's a very different approach to how I tackle video games specifically, which is I will play them for like a few hours to just see if the world is interesting enough to me to want to continue, or if the mechanics are interesting enough to me that I want to see what else I can do with them. And I like, what's interesting to me about a game is always just exploring all of the different possibilities that the developers thought of, and if those become tedious and boring before I finish the game, like if the developers run out of ideas before the game runs out of runtime, I'm probably going to stop playing it.
I get fascinated by a few instances of games I've played that were a lot more fun to think about after the fact than they were to actually play during the fact. And I feel like that's an angle worthy of consideration and writing on if that is part of my opinion, which is why I always try to finish a game I've started.
Yeah, that's a good approach for a critic. It's just like
that's how I feel about Metal Gear Solid 2 and like Red Dead Redemption to an extent. Like, I feel like a lot of people forget about how much of that game is just tapping the A button while your horse rides itself. But the stuff that your character is talking about while you're tapping that A button and the presentation of everything is probably a lot more fascinating than what your fingers are doing on the controller.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know that I could ever finish every video game I play, and when I started my channel, I tried to finish every anime that I started watching, and I gave up on that almost immediately because it's a lot of work, and not everything is worth the time.
Yeah, and video games are even longer.
Yeah, I mean, depending. I don't know that there are many video games that are longer to get through than Legend of the Galactic Heroes, for instance. Even though I have to watch that, apparently. Or One Piece. There is no video game that is longer than One Piece.
Yeah, when I said that, I wasn't really thinking of these, 15-year-old mega franchises.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of the disposability, I think, being somewhat inherent to anime. The fact that we've always had these giant mega series in the medium. And so you've got to, at least in cases such as those, just be used to making exceptions and not finishing everything because you can't do it.
It's impossible.
And so just over the years, it's become practice, and certainly with 40, 50 new anime coming out every 3 months, and a lot of the time you needing to check them out yourself to see whether or not it'll be worth your while, because premise tells you so little about anime and its quality. You have to check out all those 40 shows, but you cannot finish all those 40 shows.
Yeah, you gotta pick and... I've got...
What if there's some cool twist at the end that makes the rest of it way cooler than when you were actually going through it?
Oh, Digi's got some
you're talking
good
about
videos
Metal Gear
on
Solid
the
2,
subject.
Huh?
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2 really means that I can't just play a game halfway through anymore.
Or Silent Hill 2. A lot of those 2 games. But yeah, I don't know. I guess the approach to anime is also different, just because, like you were saying, Lachlan, there's so much stuff out there that you can't finish everything, and it's hard to evaluate something based on a neat premise. But I also feel like that leads people to writing off things that have neat premises but don't have another immediately obvious source of appeal. And
that's an interesting point.
And in doing so, you might miss the other things that make that show good, like really, really strong execution and writing that don't become apparent until you're halfway through watching it.
Like Erased? Are you talking about Erased again, Jeff? Is this about Erased?
No, I'm talking about Recreators.
Well, Recreators from episode 1 is super cool and has shown its hand, and if you are not at all a scholar of the medium, you'll see the potential there.
I'm about to put out I've written and I'm about to put out a 20-minute long video about why I think that Recreators might be the next Cowboy Bebop tier classic that anime gets, and why I think more people need to start watching it, because right now the discussions on our anime are kind of sub 1,000 upvotes, and
the anime strike curse, Jeff.
It's the anime strike curse. It is true, and I want to help it break that, because it's such a good show. It's so smartly written, and I feel like a lot of people are just going to be oh well, it's just another ReZero or whatever. And I think ReZero is decently smartly written, but this is the guy who wrote fucking Black Lagoon. You gotta take a step back and think, this guy is gonna write something better than almost anybody else.
I wasn't actually wowed by the craft. I've had some sort of points of critique, especially in the most recent episode or the one right before it. But it's definitely just brimming with points of interest and interesting ideas to a very rare degree.
Yeah, and I that's largely what my video is going into. Is just I won't spoil it, but yeah.
Yeah.
But oh goddamn, I see a lot of people who are just this is gonna be another 7 out of 10 isekai story, and that's with anime. people don't finish things and then they let their expectations fill in the gaps for them, which is sort of the opposite problem that a lot of gamers have, which is they finish everything and then
they get hyped and make their expectations then, and then play the real thing and realize their expectations are not being realized.
And they end up in one of two camps, which is either this thing that is pretty good but didn't fully meet my expectations is the worst video game ever and destroyed my life, or
oh yeah, sorry.
Or this video game that I was looking forward to forever has to be the best thing ever. I don't have Stockholm Syndrome. What are you talking about? You're crazy! I'm DDoSing your whole website!
I've adopted a policy of not watching trailers for games past like the reveal one at the very first. Trying to solve that problem.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know how much of the System Shock 3 I have in my head is what Prey is marketing itself out to be. So whenever I load that one up, hopefully I'll have more of a clean slate. Because boy, I sure would love a modern day System Shock 3. But I'll try not to watch a bunch of videos of Prey and imagine it being that, because that might probably not be what it actually is.
Yeah, oh man. Video game marketing is a whole other kettle of worms. Anyway, we are going into a vastly different discussion from what we started.
It's true.
But this is stuff that we think about all the time because it's our job.
It makes us very nervous.
Yeah. And the only other thing that I've been up to this week is gearing up for my birthday, which again, birthday's the beginning. The fantastic life sim from Nice, America, heralds as the most important moment in the universe's history. And you should all worship me as a god. That's all I'm saying. That's all I want to get across.
There we go. I just sent you your birthday present.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh boy, this is. I'm probably just gonna slap this in at the end of the video, or maybe at the beginning. I don't know. At any rate, now that we have talked a lot about what we're up to and what we thought of this movie, we're gonna dig into the mailbag and look at some questions that listeners had regarding your name and us in general. So we're gonna start with. Marietix, who asks, I know that the film's all about the feelings of the main characters and all that, but there's two questions that have been bugging me since I watched the film. Why doesn't Taki remember the meteor falling 3 years ago? And why does Taki and his phone start forgetting about Mitsuha the same day the meteor falls? Thanks for your time.
Magic!
Yeah, we did mention that.
Magic!
It is we got mumbo jumbo.
We talked about the plot hole's not important, but it is kind of a plot hole. But I think it's all sort of summed up in dream logic. Like all of this thing happened to them. All of these things happened to them in a dream, and specifically the way that his phone starts deleting her phone diary is very like
magical.
You're looking at a screen in a dream and you can't actually make out any of the words because there are no words because it's just a bunch of random text because that's what your brain thinks of when it thinks of computer screen.
So I think one of the things that the movie kind of awkwardly gets across is that like a lot of what they're doing when they're trying to meet up with each other or save each other's towns is supposed to be operating by dream logic, but since you're seeing it happen right in front of you and you're fully aware and awake, it doesn't feel like it. Because later on, he remembers going on a road trip to visit this town, but doesn't remember how or why, even though it was like a big ordeal that caused a bitter argument with his friends and had him like spending the night in the woods on the mountain by himself. Like even after 3 years, that's not a night you would really forget unless, I don't know, you just dreamed the whole thing up. And it was really vague, and that's something that makes that plot hole and discrepancy, like they're pointing out, make sense to me. Because on the other hand, it's the meteor falling from the comet kills 500 people, which is a tragedy, but it's not like, I don't know. I mean, I hate to sound like a cold, callous statistician, but that's not something that's on the same scale as like 9/11 or Fukushima or 500 people is sad, but it's probably something that they would take not as many years to get over as
here's
the top 3 tragedies of the past decade.
As an inverse of that, though, 500 people is still a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
Anything over 1,000 people becomes a statistic.
And also, like, a national level tragedy. I mean,
yeah.
So when I first saw the movie, I thought it was unlikely that a comet meteor could just like wipe out a town and kill 500 people. Then I Googled it, and meteors have hit the planet Earth a lot over the past couple centuries that they've been bothering to record this history, and the resulting blast is similar to nuclear bombs going off. It just the likelihood of it hitting a populated area is so incredibly low that it usually doesn't. So after reading that, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that could happen.
And now you're worried about a meteorite falling on your house?
No, I just was looking for things to make the movie less believable, and that was one of them. And I still came away being able to believe it a little more than maybe I should.
Yeah, it's but yeah, I mean yeah.
That was around the same time I started Googling up videos of rituals that look exactly the same as they do in the movie, and towns with crater lakes outside of them that look just like the towns in the movie, and I was like all questions of it becoming less believable as I researched it more, like kind of got flipped, and it became more believable the more I researched into it.
It's kind of funny because all of that research that you did kind of mirrors what Taki does to try to find Mitsuha.
Ooh, that's scary.
Maybe you're gonna end up like maybe you're just imagining that it was a movie and you actually swapped bodies with a hot girl in Tokyo.
A fictional character in someone else's creative works.
Which is...
That's Recreators.
That's Recreators, which is getting fascinating with that. Anyway, next question comes from My Name is Ian Jasper. He says...
That's cute.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying. It answers the question of the now.
And he asks, hello, Dweebcast. Which anime content creator, we'll expand this to YouTube content creator because I don't know how many of those you watch. Which YouTube content creator would you hate doing a Your Name body switch with? 3-year time gap not included.
Oh no, this is basically just shit talking on people.
Well, I mean, yeah.
So I have to make sure
bodies are somewhat more objective. Like it could... It's still mean.
I
but
can't
it's
honestly
not as
answer. Like I only have to pick my closest friends who can take the joke,
Yeah.
Because I have one in my head, but no one's gonna know who it is. So I have to pick the next best one. Are you guys thinking? I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I can give mine right now.
Okay, go ahead, Lachlan.
Just because I don't feel bad casting shade, because I've seen him on Twitter. If we're talking YouTube reviewers, Movie Bob's Body is not one I would like to be in possession of for any duration of time.
See, I've never met the guy, so I don't know. I can't say personally. I don't want to talk about anyone I haven't met personally.
I mean, yeah, I listening to or looking at Movie Bob's Twitter feed gives a not good impression, but hey, lots of people are abrasive on Twitter and turn out to be nice people in real life, so I don't know if I'd write him off like that. But man, he did not invent being a reviewer guy on YouTube. Not even close. And he's said some pretty yeah, I can see why you would pick Movie Bob. That's all I'll say. For me, I see, you're lucky, Lachlan, in that you have a small enough channel that nobody will care what you say.
Well, you'd be surprised the stuff I've started. But,
me and George, we have to be a little politic.
We've got a professional reputation to uphold.
And keep it to our friends. So out of my...
Digi's always a safe bet.
Yeah, no.
Fat and dangerous.
I was actually...
I know who mine is.
Yeah, I was actually going to say Digibro, probably. Because I have seen his bathroom in his house.
Yep. It's really not the person; it's the environment. It's
exactly.
Nature over nurture.
But I mean, I guess this person really, really wants me to do a You know what? Actually, right now, the content creator I would not want to be, as I would not want to swap bodies with Ethan Klein from H3H3 Productions.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to deal with that lawsuit even a little bit.
That just sounds stressful.
Yeah, it's safe, but I answered the question. Who's yours?
I wouldn't want to be fucking Plague.
Oh, God, no.
Living in the goddamn ass middle of nowhere with the farm full of dying animals and corpses. Fuck that.
And you don't even have the ability to draw great hentai in his body that keeps him sustained.
Well, let's see. Like, when we do the body swap, do our own skills transfer over, or do we gain the skills of the people we are swapping into?
Your own skills transfer.
Like, do we remember their muscle memory or our muscle memories?
It's your name, so
Mitsuha was good at stitching in Taki's body.
And Taki was good at drawing in hers.
So I would be good at, like, writing. And so I would have to start writing erotica in order to appeal to his fan base of drawn erotica. That would be awkward for the both of us.
That would be pretty So, I guess the inverse of that...
Oh my god. It would be like the movie, though. Because he lives in the middle of the farm and I live in the middle of the city. And he's good at drawing, and what was Mitsuha good at? Braiding? I don't know. Whatever. He's good at drawing. I'm good at something else. I hope.
Yeah. And then you'd have to fall in love with him, though. But okay, I guess the inverse question of that is, who would you like to swap bodies with?
Someone on my Twitter asked me that too. Ooh. Well, I gotta be real careful with this one.
Okay. Who is it?
I don't know. I'm thinking.
All right, Lachlan, do you have one?
I'll do Giguk because he's beautiful and wildly successful.
That's a good pick. For me, I would specifically want to swap bodies with like Casey Neistat whenever he's on vacation.
Oh. I just hit mine.
Okay, what's yours?
Okay, I'm gonna have to look up her actual name. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
I would want to switch bodies with Yuka Kinoshita.
Huh?
She is a Japanese professional eater who is tiny and adorable and cute and not fat, and somehow makes shitloads of videos of her eating shitloads of food. So transforming into a tiny, cute Japanese girl and eating a bunch of junk food for a day, and then going back to being George, would be a pretty nice deal. Jesus Christ, she has 1,017 videos. Holy crap, almost 2 million 3 million subs! I'd be getting all that for a day, too! Woo!
Actually, no. In that case, there's only one correct option.
Okay.
Because we're... swap body... Okay. I mean, there's a few correct options. Swap bodies with, like, Philip DeFranco, or maybe PewDiePie, but probably not PewDiePie, because nobody...
But would you want to swap jobs with them?
No, I would want to swap bodies with them for one day, on a day that they're making a video, and then just make a video where I plug the shit out of my own content.
Damn, that's smart. What if there's a 3-year time gap?
That's an actual stand power.
And what if you're just shouting yourself out 3 years before or 3 years in the future? You might not even be making videos in the timeline you're shouting out your own videos.
Oh, that would be crazy. Oh, but it said without the 3-year time gap here. But if it was with the 3-year time gap,
that might just make things better for you if you happen to be in the future giving yourself shout-outs in the past, which would exponentially grow into you having more subs and brand deals and view counts in the present. But I don't know, maybe that would just come with it more problems. Like, then you'd switch back to your own body in the presence, and like suddenly every time you open up your inbox, it's just full of like 10 times more hate mail than it used to be.
That does grow exponentially the more subscribers you get.
Yeah, it's
true.
really sad, actually. But anyways.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to some more questions. Let's see. So this is a more practical question from I Hate Anime. Hey, Weebcasto, English. Mike here. I think your name looks amazing, but I live in the middle of bumfuck Arkansas.
It's
one
plague?
Of those. Could be. It's one of those sister wife states that the American in the American South. You glorious Canadian bastard. The closest showing would be a day's worth of driving to see. My question is, why don't anime movies come to streaming services? Sure, older ones like Sword of the Stranger, or he's saying Sword of the Samurai, but I think that's Sword of the Stranger, occasionally pop up, but most of them rarely get much love unless Ghibli is attached. I feel like it could really help movies' popularity grow if I could tell people an easy way to watch it.
Well, it is fortunate that you do have an expert on the economics of the anime export industry, like myself here, here on the Weebcast, to delightfully inform people with my expertise and knowledge.
This would be a good one to bring Gaijin Goomba on for, actually.
Yeah, I won't butcher it, but Sakuga Blog, I think, has covered specifically, because they go into industry stuff, the economics surrounding movies not generally getting their streaming rights thing. They don't stream online, and there's various economic reasons why companies don't want that to occur.
Mm-hmm. I'm just coming at this from a purely opinion standpoint. I think that they might be passing up on money and being bad towards like creating a negative experience for consumers by not putting it on streaming services. But at the same time, licensing is a fucking quagmire. I mean, we didn't get Nichijou for almost a decade because fucking Namco Bandai Entertainment went out of business right after they picked up the license and nobody else could get it. And
I mean, part of it is that they don't want films certainly streaming until they're absolutely totally out of theaters, and theater runs can be a year or more. So at that point, then the relevance has died down, and there's just less of a drive to pursue those licenses in general.
Yeah, Japan does have really long theater runs for a lot of things. Like, it's weird that a movie that has been out for almost a year in Japan is not yet out on Blu-ray. With Your Name specifically. And it sucks for us, it sucks for us as American fans, because we want to be experiencing these things while the Japanese are. But the unfortunate reality of that is just like, they're gonna get it first, and they're gonna get priority, and the potential for it being pirated in Japan is going to prevent them from releasing even the Blu-ray for a movie like this over here until it's completely out of theaters.
Yep.
As an expert on the topic, I'm very impressed with how well said you others were. So I will defer the answers to these questions with your insight that you just provided. Approval. There. Yes. Very satisfied with your answers, so I won't drag us on any further.
Okay. So, next one. If you don't open this after reading, my stand will activate, from Tommy Pay 1. I tricked you. I have no stand, but hey, now that you're here, you may as well read my question. Is Your Name your favorite animated movie? If not, what is? Also, the Pedantic Romantics videos have been killing lately. Hashtag we don't need to define anime. Hashtag the next generation through Boruto. Hashtag there is a good Chinese version of SAO. Sent from Huawei Mobile. So that guy may be in like China or something. But yeah, so is Your Name your favorite animated movie? If not, what is?
Yeah, I don't know. My answer is really super easy because it's just plain old yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totoro is close second. I could talk about Totoro a bit.
Totoro is a good ass movie. I think we're gonna do a Totoro podcast in the future, so I'll keep you in mind for that.
Save it
Yeah,
up.
definitely. That's what me and the girl watched immediately after Your Name. We loaded up Totoro, and I
Nice.
was like, oh my god, this is way better than it was when I was a kid.
I gotta give you like a list of good anime movies to watch because there's a lot. But Lachlan, is it your favorite animated movie?
It is not my favorite anime movie. That'd be tricky. It's probably End of Evangelion, which may be like a technicality or a cheat or something because it's sort of the conclusion to a TV anime. But Eva had that strong emotional resonance that Eva's certainly got the potential to have, and so End of Evangelion.
Yeah. For me,
that's the one.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No.
Yeah, for me, it's not. But it's really hard for me to place an absolute favorite animated film of all time. Like, if we're just focusing on anime specifically, it would probably be Ghost in the Shell or Castle in the Sky. I've got
that
a real soft
original
spot.
Ghost in the Shell movie is really fucking good.
It is really, really good. Or maybe, God, I love Tokyo Godfathers. Godfathers. That's such a good movie. I need to do a Weebcast about that next. But yeah, if we're branching out to like animated movies in general, though, it's got to compete with like the Lego Movie, which is really, really good. It's got to compete with all of the Disney classics. It's got to compete with Anomalisa, which, if you guys haven't seen it,
I still have to see Anomalisa.
Anomalisa is one of the greatest animated films I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And it's still got to compete with what I think is, it is definitely my all-time favorite animated film, which is Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is one of the greatest movies, period, ever made, period.
I still think right now, after saying all that, I still feel pretty strongly that Your Name is...
And that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, I think one of the first things you asked me when I came on was like, have you ever seen another movie just 3 times in a row and within a couple weeks like you did? And I literally think the answer is like, no other movie has hooked into my brain like this one has.
Yeah, I and some things, man, they just get you. Like I know that it's not necessarily the best technically executed movie of all time, but I watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World like 6 times while it was still in theaters. So some things just grab you.
Yeah, and like I think a lot of it has to do with like the time in my life that I've seen this movie. Like, I don't know, if I saw it a year later or a year before, I don't know if it would have worked out as well, because I saw it when I just came back from a Japan trip. Like when I'm trying to very, very slowly re-engineer my channel towards a bit of a different focus that I'm still working out, like, it gave me a lot more ideas about myself than I think it would have if I stumbled upon this movie at a different time in my life, which colors my biases, you know?
Yeah. But that's true for any movie, right? Like,
right.
It's your favorite movie is the combination of the great movie at a good time. Or even like a bad movie at the right time can become your favorite movie.
Yeah. Like so often just the circumstances of your life determine what your tastes are going to be at the time. So the subjectivity of quality is pretty fluid, and I will admit that this thing like hit me right when it totally should have.
Yeah.
And a lot more viewers aren't going to probably have that advantage.
Mm-hmm. This may be the beginning, like it may have hit you at just the right time to be the beginning of your 2-year anime fan journey, which is something lots of people undergo. That's a concept we'll talk about. We've talked about on other podcasts, but we'll go back to that.
How long the phase usually lasts? 2 years.
Yeah, because that's how long it takes people who aren't super invested in seeking out new things to run out of an influx of really great anime to watch.
God, I hate the fact that I've played most of the really great games out there. So, like, going into a really great anime movie and knowing that there's still more out there, like, it almost makes it more romantic in a way.
Yeah.
Because you, like, know that as good as Your Name is, like, I'm still just hitting the tip of the iceberg here. Whereas I'm going to close the podcast and go back to Automata, which is great, right? But I know it's just, like, one of the great games of this year versus how many others I played of every year. It really narrows the pool of great things when you've gone through the whole library of all those great things.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, with the nice thing about getting into stuff like that young is that as your tastes evolve, new things become great to you over time. So, like, there is always something new out there that you can enjoy, but you are probably over that 50% mark of great video games. Right. And it's rare for a video game to come out that is just like, not just this is a good video game for this year, but this is one of the greatest video games of all time.
Yeah, and so, I mean, when I, like, look at the best video games of any given year over the past 20 years and notice that I've played most, if not all of them, that it makes it feel like the medium in general is, like, facing more of a creative bankruptcy than it was during any other part in my life when I still would have yet to go through all those years. Because the only way you can get that far is invest time in the medium.
Even though a lot of those, like in when you were a kid, it was still, like, about the same percentage of bad games to good games to great games.
But you knew in the back of your head that as good as the thing you were getting excited about at the time, like, I was really freaking excited as a kid playing Total Annihilation, which was a great game, but that came out the same year as StarCraft. So, like, imagine my surprise later when I picked up StarCraft and I was like, oh, previously I thought this thing was the bee's knees, and now this new thing is the bee's knees.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's this, you know, I'm at that same point where I have played, like if I Google best video games of all time, it's a list of video games that I've played, you know? And I do still get excited when a brand new game comes out that isn't just, like, the best game this year, but could potentially be one of the best games ever. Like Grand Theft Auto 5. I got that feeling when I was playing it, because it's just so expansive and cool, and there's so much detail in that world. And Undertale has such an emotional impact that while I was playing it, I felt that way. But I get surprised like that by games less and less the more of the really great ones I play.
So,
and
sorry.
Yeah, just and the more it comes down to playing the stuff that's just, you know, there.
Apologies for the Discord lag there.
Mm.
But I just Google searched for the best anime movies of all time, right? And I see, like, maybe 4 or 6 that I've seen before. The rest of them is all new stuff, and that's freaking exciting. Like, that's a really exciting feeling, knowing how much more good stuff there is out there that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, like, that you haven't even drawn an opinion on.
Right.
And yeah, that's it.
That you were previously unaware of, even, and now it's a total revelation.
Aware of them. You know?
I mean, the flip side of that is that when you look at a list of the best games of all time, you get to feel sort of well-read. Like, you've got, like, a good literacy for what makes a good video game, and what ideas have transferred from game to game over time.
And it also makes the list look kind of dumb. You Google best games of all time, and the first one on the list is BioShock?
First one for me is Super Mario Bros.
Why?
Let's see what I got.
Why is it different? Oh, this is creepy. Okay, maybe I need to log out. Oh,
yeah, it's Google.
My account.
Yeah, because I mean, it's tossing up, like it's still tossing up like the obvious ones, but the order of it's a little different depending.
The order
on...
is.
I get
different.
the original Super Mario Bros.
I got BioShock first, Skyrim, GTA 5, Red Dead, Ocarina, then there's Super Mario Bros.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there is always new stuff to experience, and you can find some really friggin' amazing video games if you delve into weird independent Japanese stuff. Like, my favorite game of all time is never gonna make one of these lists. It's a sandbox game called Steambot Chronicles, which, like, barely anyone even knows existed.
I heard you talking about that somewhere, I think. I don't remember. But, like, it was getting a sequel, potentially, but then it got canceled.
Yeah, so it was an Irem game. I think I talked about this on the Best Friend cast.
Yeah, that's where I heard it. Must have.
It was an Irem game that was just a really good steampunk sandbox game where instead of a car, you have a giant bipedal robot that you can customize to your whims. And it was really fun. It had like a lot of free choice to it. It kind of did the Mass Effect thing before Mass Effect did it with like moral choices and conversations. But then it also did like, or I guess around the same time that Knights of the Old Republic did that, to be fair. But then it also had like a functioning stock market a full decade before Grand Theft Auto 5 put that level of detail into its world. It was just like a really good, fully realized world, and I love that game to pieces. And most people haven't heard of it, which is why I like recommending it to people. Because
I have heard of it, but that's a name I haven't heard in a long ass time. I remember it getting a pretty good press run back in 2005, but 2005 was like such a killer year of other like amazing, potentially best games of all time, just like coming out one after another, that it seemed to get lost in that pile.
Yeah, I mean, the review that made me play it came in the same issue of official US PlayStation Magazine as a review of fucking Odin Sphere, which was one of the things that put Atlas, the publisher of Steambot Chronicles, on the map. And that was like right prior to Persona coming out and like Persona 3 coming out and blowing them into the mainstream. And then I think that was the same year that Shadow of the Colossus came out.
Yeah, 2005 was a stupidly good year. RE4.
So it kind of got overshadowed, and I'm sad about that because it's a really, really good, quirky video game, and that's the stuff like that is what makes me feel a little bit less depressed over looking at this list and being like, played it, know that I should play it and will eventually, which is where I'm at with KOTOR, but also, like, maybe playing it now it'll be too janky. You know?
I actually played it 3 years back. It's really hard to get installed on a new Windows operating system, but other than that, like, KOTOR has aged pretty well, all things considered.
I also know the plot twist, so
it's still a rollicking classic adventure on the way there, I think.
Yeah. No, I like, there is still stuff on this list that I have yet to play, even if I'm aware of all of it, but nothing is new to me. Like, nothing on any of this list is, oh, I've never heard of that before. And now that you've put it this way, that is kind of a crappy feeling. Because I'm like, it is going to be a long-ass time before a video game genuinely surprises me like Undertale did.
Yeah, that was a good feeling.
And it's going to be a long-ass time. I mean, the nice thing about anime is that there's new anime coming out all the time. And at least once a year, I am genuinely surprised by something that's incredible, like Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju, or or Konosuba. I'm just saying random moonspeak to you at this point. But
yeah, I think I ordered that at a restaurant once.
But like, it is still a little bit disheartening to be like, you know, I've gone through Cowboy Bebop, I've gone through Gurren Lagann, I've gone through all of the really, like there's still really good stuff that I have yet to experience. But I'm at this point where I know of the good stuff, and I do kind of want to find a medium where I can be surprised like that again. You know? Maybe I should start reading books.
Books are good.
Books are good.
Nah, books are for I've read a lot of books too. I have my favorites.
I'm about to do another game novelization video. The first one I did years upon years ago was like some of the most fun I've had, because I was like, wow, I can be surprised by a story again. And I don't like, even books don't last as long as most of the games I end up playing. I read through like 3 books in the 1 week it took me to make that video versus playing through one game. Anyways, what was the question again?
Was it favorite movies? Was that the one that we got off on this tangent
movies we
from
went
somehow?
off,
At least we went into a meaningful conversation about what it's like to become media of a certain medium and exhaust through all of your favorites to the point where you're pretty sure you might have seen all the stuff that could potentially be your own favorites, which is terrifying. And something I've never talked about
interesting discussions
before.
here on the Weebcast.
Yeah, we always go for the deep cuts on this here show.
You gotta be careful with that, though. Deep cuts are hard to. They require elbow grease.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta push your arm a little harder.
All right, we're gonna ask a couple more questions real quick because we're over the 3-hour mark at this point, and this was supposed to be one of the fast and easy ones.
It was.
So Christopher Poole asks, what anime do you think you would have...
Oh, never mind. That's a joke, isn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. His name is Poole, like Poole.
Christopher Poole is the real name of Moot from 4chan.
I don't think this is the same.
I know.
Poole.
I think it's
could be
a fun joke that only George got, I guess. Okay, so anyways, what does Moot have to say?
Moot asks, what anime do you think you would have enjoyed more if you'd seen it in film in theaters rather than as an ongoing series? Assume they cut out all of the filler and made the perfect movie out of the important plot points. Also consider what you think might present well on the big screen.
Wow, that's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I actually do have an answer.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I wish I had known what Totoro was like on theaters. Like way back in the early 90s even. That would have been a weird trip. Like if I would not have been old enough, of course, but like knowing what the crowd for that kind of screening was like would have been really interesting.
That's slightly different from the question that we're asking, but that is still like true. That would have been very interesting. He's asking anime series that like from TV that would have been better in theaters.
If you condensed a TV series down into film format and could watch it in theaters, what would you want to view?
Oh.
But you haven't seen any anime series, I'd imagine, so...
Yeah.
So you gave a good answer.
As the expert
Totoro's as good
here,
as
I
any.
will allow you others to take the spotlight for just a bit.
Oh god, it's an interesting question, right?
You can think. I'll go with FLCL because you can get it into movie length without actually cutting anything out of it, and seeing that on the big screen would be a stunning experience with the sound system playing the pillows there.
Yeah, that is
Beautiful.
That is a good call.
Yeah, FLCL
I mean, you
could be condensed, I bet. It's like short enough as it is.
You can get a
It's like
similar
2 hours 45 minutes, I think. So
it's
just a long movie.
Mm-hmm. I just put in a home theater, so I'm gonna be like the system. I haven't like properly installed it yet, so that makes me want to watch FLCL on that like right now.
Yeah.
But like as for stuff that I have seen that I think would be really good on the big screen. It would either have to be something like crazy and impressive that would have benefited from cutting out a lot of the bullshit. Like, I feel like having less of Aldnoah Zero while maintaining the quality of its best action scenes and dropping the shit action scenes would have made
Yeah, it may very well
would have drastically improved my enjoyment of that shitty show.
Yeah.
But on the subject,
Cabaneri got a theatrical release, and that's a decent candidate for it.
yeah, Cabaneri is another decent good option. I mean, like, the thing is that I like long series specifically because they are long and they allow me to, like, get more invested in the story. But I feel like now and then, here and there, while it is a good TV show and does benefit from being drawn out, would also work really, really well as a super high-budget movie.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to miss out on any of what we already have.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's certainly so masterful that you could put it in any format and it'd be stunning.
Yeah. And I feel like on a big screen with the proper audio setup, the most powerful scenes of that show could hit you even harder than they do when you watch it on TV, which is pretty damn hard already.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my pick. All right, Trey Allen asks, Dear Sobbing Sobcast, my recent viewing of Your Name had me laying in bed crying into my pillow while simultaneously attempting to type in Discord through a waterfall of tears. I was halfway through a message to a friend of mine, which I was trying to recommend that he see this movie immediately, but could not figure out for the life of me how to do it without spoiling it. The premise of body switching isn't going to be enough to spur him into watching it, and I can tell him that it's sad, or that it has a somewhat happy ending, because the main part of the film is the anticipation that it fills you with. I would be happy if you could provide me with some assistance in this endeavor.
I think it'd depend on the particular friend. I mean, there's a couple routes you could go. You could go the just a critical acclaim route and talk about how it's got this almost universal love and high regard from everyone.
It's a good-ass movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, George's recommendation. Have him watch the Weebcast here. Have him pledge to my Patreon just because. And this recommendation should be all... Oh, well, we're spoilery, I guess, so that won't work.
Trey Allen might already be on your Patreon. You should look that up before you say that. He supports a lot of...
I know my patrons, Jeff. Don't doubt my devotion to my loyal fans here.
Okay, well, Trey, Pedantic Romantic could use your love, too. But, yeah, that aside, the only other way I could think of like, pitching it would be to just show somebody a bunch of, like, out of context clips of it, like a trailer of some kind, and just be like, look at how pretty! It's so pretty!
You know, even just wallpapers of the backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
It'll depend on what gets them to watch stuff, but certainly for some that'll be sufficient motivating material.
If it wasn't so spoilery, I would say just, like, show somebody the sequence where he drinks the sake.
No, you don't want to go straight into that.
I mean, just on a... Or show somebody the opening. Show him the opening. Show him my video about the opening.
It has a 98
spoilery.
on Rotten Tomatoes. Show them that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... It is hard to convince somebody... Because consensus doesn't really mean anything anymore. One critic saying it's good doesn't really mean anything anymore to a lot of people. It's just like...
But the tomato meter...
Yeah, the tomato meter.
It's an aggregator.
I mean, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't really aggregate scores, though. Rotten Tomatoes is like what is the percentage chance that you will like this movie at least more than you dislike it?
I think they just straight up divide it between negative and positive reviews, which I think I like better as a scoring system. Yeah, actually, someone should legitimately try this out. Maybe it'll be me. A 2-point scoring system. Is the review positive or negative? There's no room for middle ground. We're at war. Pick a side. That's it. I like the simplicity of that.
Yeah, that's definitely a good metric. Because what does it matter if it's like an 8.3 or a 7.9? You know, what's the difference between that?
You're supposed to be fairly representing the middle ground at that point, but in practice, it just causes a whole bunch of people to scroll immediately to the bottom of a well-written, well-thought-out, extremely beautiful pinnacle work of art of artistic criticism, and just argue about the score instead.
Man, you think very highly of your writing, huh?
What? I wasn't talking about my writing.
But yeah, other than that, I don't know. Just lots of people love it. I would also say maybe Gigix, the perfect anime video, might be a good selling point for that. Okay, so we got one last question to close this out, which I think is a good one. I will mention that somebody... I can't find the thing right now. So Sebastian Velasquez asked if I could talk about the scene where Taki drinks the sake, and he says he fell in love with that scene, and he doesn't know exactly what made it amazing. Could you maybe analyze it a bit? Which I think I will make a full video out of around the time that the Blu-ray is released. So look forward to that. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because this guy said that that was one of his favorite scenes, and that was your favorite scene in the movie too, George.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and there's so much symbolism to talk about over a script too. Like that thing about there being a thread that the camera actually follows is something I didn't even notice until just now. Like, up until then, it was like, whoa, absolutely beautiful watercolor trippy animation. Now I'm like, wait a second. There's actually visual representations of abstract themes happening. Ooh.
Yeah. And then the last question for today, Moses Kim asks, how fucked up is it that I wanted the movie to end on the stairs right before Taki and Mitsuha turn around and talk to each other?
That's not that fucked up.
You just wanted a typical Makoto Shinkai ending.
Yeah,
Wait, no, they still would meet up though. Like they wouldn't have like
right after they pass each other without looking back.
Oh, without looking back.
Yeah,
because they look back, and then she's about to walk away, but he's like, "Hey!"
Yeah. But yeah, because I told a friend and he called me a sick fuck. As a side note, he also recommended 5 centimeters per second to me. Would you recommend it to people like me who have thoughts like that? Yeah, sure. If you like ambiguous and depressing shit, I recommend watching Inception, because that's what you want all of the endings of your movies to be, apparently.
I never saw Inception.
The top falls over. Or it doesn't. Who knows? Who cares? But it's so deep. I actually really like Inception a lot, but mostly for just the spectacle of it, you know?
Yeah.
I've probably been too busy playing video games.
Yeah. Anyway, we have been going at this for quite some time now. So
indeed we have.
We are going to close out this Weebcast. Anybody have closing thoughts on the movie or just anything that they want to say in general before we go?
It's such a fucking good movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of changed your life, huh?
I think... Well, I don't... You know, I can't, like, work my way out of this at this point, because you already hear me really thinking about whether or not it actually has, but...
Yeah.
But what? No, I'm a stoic, rugged, individualistic man who had a path before I saw that movie. Of course. What are you changing my life with a silly Chinese cartoon? No way.
Says the guy who keeps going to Japan over and over again.
And I'll be going back.
You will.
I don't know. I have a feeling like the movie might have influenced that a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But man, like, what a perfect movie to see after a trip to Japan, and also feeling like the thing I've been doing for the past few years is leaving some hole in my life that needs to be filled by something I need to be searching for.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It's a good ass movie. It's not my favorite movie of all time, but it hit me really hard, and it is my favorite movie that I've seen this year so far. Which sounds like not a very glowing recommendation, but I watch a lot of movies. So, yeah. If that's all, though, I would say that now is as good a time as any to say thank you for tuning in. I'm Jeff the Professional Shitbag, and I was joined today by Superbunnyhop,
Georgie Wiedelman,
and the Pedantic Romantic. That's him. And we are all signing out from different places on the internet. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.